What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to do a full story video. A full story video is when I sit down and take a bunch of videos that tell one overarching story and combine them together into one big video. Now, today's full story video is going to be about Wolverine. So let me explain. You see, in the late 1980s, when it came to Marvel Comics, they realized that the X-Men were getting very popular. You had Uncanny X-Men, you had X-Factor, you had New Mutants. But then by 1988, they were like, hey, let's give Wolverine his own series again, but this time his own ongoing series. Now, in our last full story video, we had covered the first 16 issues of that run. And the first few books were actually written by Chris Claremont, the man who truly knew a lot about the character. But then Chris left very early on. But then they had Peter David come in and pick up where Chris left off at. But then Peter David left as well. And so after those two writers, we began to see a huge change in the character of Wolverine. You see, when it came to Chris and Peter David, they did a great job to make sure that the Wolverine book would not be tied into the other X books like New Mutants, X-Force, or even X-Men. When it came to the Wolverine book, it was on its own. And matter of fact, it even had its own supporting cast as well around Wolverine. But like I said, after Chris and Peter had left, things began to change, to the point where you then had all these other writers come in. And with these new writers, they kind of wanted to make sure that Wolverine would actually be part of the rest of the X titles, be part of the rest of the Marvel titles as well. And so you had this huge change happen in the second half of the early days of Wolverine, leading into 1991. And as we all know, that was a special year for X-Men comics. But with that being said, you had all these different stories begin the process of moving Wolverine away from Madripoor, but to also get rid of his supporting cast so that we can begin the process of using the character more often, but having his book tie into the other X titles. But either way, here are these different stories that kind of go together to show you the actual process of a big change in one particular book. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over the X-Men, and we are going to jump back over to Wolverine as we work our way up to Days of Future Present, the next crossover that we are going to talk about when it comes to X-Men comics down the road. Now, getting back over to Wolverine, we are going to cover a two-part story arc. Now, this two-part story arc is really more of Wolverine fighting against drugs. And yes, you heard that right. It's Wolverine fighting against drugs. Somebody who is trying to use drugs as a way to make a super soldier. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. But before we dive into today's storyline, there is something I do want to mention. The idea that around this time in Marvel Comics, you had the world believe that the X-Men were dead. You see, back in the 1980s, we had an event called Fall of the Mutants. In that event, you had the X-Men give up their lives on live television as a way to save the world from the adversary. Now, the world believed, okay, the X-Men had died, but not knowing that soon after they had given up their lives, they were brought back to life by Lady Roma. Now, right after coming back to life, you had the X-Men decide that it was best for the world to believe that they were dead, because then they can move in the shadows as a way to attack their enemies, but to also protect their loved ones as well. Now, like I said earlier, the entire world believed the the X-Men had died. But over time, you had different characters finding out that no, the X-Men are alive. And the reason why I'm bringing that up now, because Wolverine has been spending a lot of time in Madripoor, a country where there's technically no laws, but there are a few laws the people have to follow. But in that country, he has been going by the name better known as Patch, as a way to make sure the world does not find out that he is Wolverine. Now, over time, he made some friends with certain characters in that area, like Jessica Drew. But over time, they had learned that Patch was actually Wolverine, that Wolverine and possibly the rest of the X-Men are actually alive, but just pretending to be dead to the rest of the world. And that is really important for today's storyline. And here is the reason why. Because we pick up with Wolverine currently fighting against a character known as Roughhouse in Madripoor. Now, like I said earlier, most of the world believes that Wolverine is dead, and so they know him as Patch, but his close friends know that he is Wolverine. Now, when it comes to our two characters fighting against each other, they are technically fighting for the two crime lords in Madripoor. Now, before I explain more about that, I kind of want to talk more about Roughhouse here. You see, when it comes to Roughhouse, he is a very interesting kind of character, and let me explain why. So I do know that some people out there believe that he is Asgardian, because in later stories, he did mention the idea that he is from Asgard, but that was never technically confirmed. And other stories have told us that he was a mutant. And so he's one of those characters where we haven't truly got a full confirmation on what he actually is. But either way, when it comes to Roughhouse and Wolverine, they're fighting for two crime lords in Madripoor. Now let me explain why there are two crime lords in Madripoor. You see, around this time in Marvel Comics, you had a character known as Prince Baron. Now when it comes to Prince Baron, he was the ruler of the entire country, but he used two crime lords as a way to control crime in his country. But each crime lord had a weakness. So for example, when it comes to Tiger, she said, listen, I will never take part in slavery at all. That was her weakness. But General Coy was like, hey, you know what? I don't mind selling slaves to other people around the world, especially in our country. And so he was able to pick up where she had left off at. And so you had two crime lords not really working together, but being able to control crime in Madripoor. Because again, this is a country that had almost no laws. But either way, Wolverine and Roughhouse were being used as a way to win a bet. But you have Wolverine being able to actually defeat Roughhouse. Now the bet is not really important for the storyline, but with Roughhouse losing to Wolverine, that becomes very important. Now, Roughhouse does work for General Coy, but after Roughhouse losing to Wolverine, well, we see General Coy actually selling off Roughhouse to somebody else. And it seems that he's going to use Roughhouse possibly as a experiment for something. But now we have to jump over to the palace that belongs to Prince Baron. Now, we see the prince having a conversation with Chief Tai, and Chief Tai is the man in charge of the entire police department of Madripoor. Now we kind of find out that Tai and his men were able to discover that there was going to be a huge shipment of cocaine being delivered to Madripoor for Coy, one of the two crime lords of Madripoor. Now here's the thing. You see, when it comes to the prince, he does not really mind the idea of drugs being sold in his country, but cocaine is a huge no-no. And so once he found out, he told Tai to shut it down, which he did. And currently Tai in the police department is holding on to that cocaine. Now after that meeting, we see the prince have another meeting with the same guy we saw earlier who had just bought Roughhouse away from Coy to be used as an experiment or take part in an experiment. But either way, when it comes to our mysterious character, we kind of find out it was him who has sent that huge shipment of cocaine over to Madripoor as a deal made between him and also Koi. And now we're seeing him paying the prince a huge amount of money to get the cocaine back. And he tells the prince that he plans on leaving here in the morning with his cocaine. And he is very sorry about the idea of not asking the prince it was okay to ship cocaine into his country. But now we bring in Wolverine into the story. You see, we kind of find out that it was Wolverine who had apparently discovered that huge shipment of cocaine coming into Madripoor. It was him who had worked alongside with Chief Tai to make sure the delivery never made over to General Koi. And so because of that, when Wolverine's on his balcony, he does pick up on a scent of cocaine nearby. And he knows it's the same cocaine shipment that he stopped yesterday. And now he's wondering why in the world that cocaine is being moved across the city. And why is it heading over to the docks? And so you have Wolverine head straight over there. And he sees that somebody is trying to take all the cocaine and put it on a different ship and trying to leave. And when it comes to Logan, he has to know what exactly is going on here. But now we have to jump over to Hell's Kitchen, where we pick up with a character known as Hammer Cody, who is being chased down by Matt Murdock, who is being Daredevil. Now, when it comes to Hammer Cody, he used to be a big-time boxer, but unfortunately, he had fallen off and got hooked on cocaine. Yes, you heard that right. Now, we kind of find out that his recent purchase of cocaine came from our mysterious character from earlier. Now, here's the thing, because we kind of find out that his cocaine has the ability to give people powers, to turn them into superpower beings. And so when it comes to Hammer Cody, he got powers, but he went on a rampage. The cocaine did a number to his brain. He is not thinking straight. And so Matt had no choice but to step in and try to stop Hammer. But the problem is Hammer is just too strong for Matt Murdock. But luckily for Matt and the police department, the drugs went to his brain, shutting him down, killing him just like that. And you have Matt wondering what in the world is going on. But now we jump over to our mysterious character, and we kind of find out that his name is Geist. Now, Geist is a cyborg. Now, when it comes to his actual origin, it's not explained completely in this book. Matter of fact, it's explained later on in other books way down the road. And matter of fact, I'm going to save his origin for those books way down the road, because I kind of want to move on with this story. Now, when it comes to Geist, he does tell Roughhouse, hey man, listen, you were sold by your boss Koi to me to take part in a very fun experiment. Now, when it comes to Roughhouse, he cannot believe in the idea that his boss had sold him away to be part of some kind of experiment. But you have Geist say, dude, your boss Koi has an entire operation in slavery. Are you really not going to believe the man sold you to me? Like, are you crazy? Either way, it's time for us to get to work. Now, Wolverine also knows that Roughhouse is on the boat as well. His main goal is not just to figure out what in the world is going on with the cocaine, but to also save Roughhouse as well. Even though Roughhouse is a bad guy, to Wolverine, he's a great person to fight against. But now it's time for us to jump into the second chapter of this story, where we pick up with Wolverine being able to attack the ship that belongs to Geist. Now, the men who are working for Wolverine, they don't stand a chance at all at our good old hero. But then you have Geist come out and say, you know what? I've been watching you, but it's time you and I have a conversation. I understand that you are here to stop me, but to also save your friend Roughhouse. Now, you do have Geist take Wolverine into the room where Roughhouse was being held in, except here comes the problem. You see, as soon as Wolverine walks into the room, Roughhouse no longer looks the way he did as we saw in the earlier chapters, thanks to the experiment that Geist has done on him. And we kind of find out that he did inject a new kind of what he believes could be a super soldier serum. But now we know what he is trying to do. He's trying to create a super soldier. But the question is right now, why? And that leads us into the past to kind of learn a tad bit more about the character Geist. Now we kind of find out that Geist is currently living in a small country known as Terra Verde. Now this small country, their president, better known as Felix, he wanted his own superpower being. And here's the reason why. You see, in the past, him and Geist and a few other men were watching another character known as Nuke go to work through a test to show that he is a great super soldier. But after watching that test, you have Felix say, hey, you know what? I want our own super soldier, our own superpower being. And so that led into Geist saying, hey, I am going to try to deliver your request by giving you a power being by using drugs. Cocaine. Now we already saw when it came to Daredevil that he was able to use that drug to give people abilities, but the problem is they die shortly after. But Roughhouse is different. But getting back over to the present day, we do see Roughhouse being waken up by Geist to attack Wolverine and kind of show that he was able to create a new version of his cocaine drug that made Roughhouse a whole lot stronger and a whole lot faster. Now, Wolverine at first used to be able to handle Roughhouse. They had fought a few times, or really just a couple times by this point in Marvel Comics, but Wolverine always won. This time, he's struggling, and this is Wolverine saying, I'm gonna have no choice but to go ahead and use my claws. Now that's a problem, because again, to the world, Wolverine and the X-Men are dead, but this is Wolverine saying, if I am going to survive, I'm gonna have to go out of my way to kill Roughhouse. Now when it comes to Geist, he already knows that Wolverine plans on killing Roughhouse, and so he steps in and shoots Wolverine with a bunch of tranquilizers as a way to knock him out, or really to slow him down so that Roughhouse can just do enough damage to knock out Wolverine. And after doing that, you did have Geist tranquilize Roughhouse to knock him out to take him away. Now, while you have both characters be knocked out, we do see General Koi arrive on the ship by a helicopter. And this is another meeting where you have the two characters actually trade. You see, when it comes to Koi, he did sell off Roughhouse. He did make money off of it. But now you actually have Geist paying Koi once again for allowing Roughhouse to be part of his experiment, but actually working out. And so Koi does get some money, but he also gets a small sample of the serum that Geist had created, in the possibility that Koi could make his own super soldier down the road. But after you have General Koi leave, you then have Prince Baron arrive. Now, when it comes to Prince Baron, we kind of find out that him and Geist have been working together this entire time. And let me explain why. You see, when it comes to Geist, he knew that it was Wolverine, better known as Patch, who had shut down his delivery of cocaine into Madripoor. And he says, listen, I also know that Patch has been causing Prince Baron a lot of problems in his country. So I am able to kill off two birds with one stone. One, get my cocaine back. Two, be able to kill off Wolverine or Patch for Prince Baron. Bam, just like that, I helped the prince out and got my drugs back. And for a bonus, I got a test subject that actually worked out when it comes to the idea of me creating a super soldier. Now, when it comes to Prince Baron, he pays Geist enough money to take the body of Wolverine, because he then plans on dropping Wolverine out of a plane, hoping to kill him off. Because he has no idea that Logan is Wolverine. To him, it's just Patch, and he's hoping that Patch is a regular guy who just fell out of a plane and most likely going to die. But now we jump over to President Felix, and you have the president talking to another new character, and her name is Sister Salvation. Now, both characters are going to appear a couple more times in our coverage over the X-Men. Now, when it comes to Sister, she'll appear a few more times than the president, but she's also a mutant, and she has the ability to heal people with her touch. Now, when it comes to Felix, he wants her to come back home to Terra Verde. We kind of find out that they were once lovers or possibly married. Either way, she left him because he became corrupt. Now, this is him saying, hey, come here, come back home with me, because you know what? Even though I am corrupt, I was able to change a lot of things in Terra Verde. But for her, she does not want to be with the man who's so corrupt. And so what he does next, he blows up what could be her clinic or hospital and then force her to stay on his boat, and they head back to Terra Verde. And that's it for them for the time being. But to wrap up today's video, we do jump back over to Wolverine being saved by the few friends he has back in Madripoor. So like O'Donnell, Tiger, and also Archie. They were able to find him just in the middle of the ocean and pull him right back in. But after doing that, he says he is going to invade Terra Verde. Now, here's the thing, because the next two issues for Wolverine is part of Acts of Vengeance. And I'll talk more about that down the road. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to Days of Future Present, the next crossover that we are going to talk about. But today's video is going to be about Wolverine, issue number 19 and 20. But this two-part story arc is actually part of Acts of Vengeance, another series that we are currently covering. You see, in the late 1980s, Marvel gave us a massive crossover, better known as Acts of Vengeance, where you had a mysterious character appear, and this mysterious character had a plan to have different villains fight against different heroes they don't usually fight against, because those heroes are not prepared to fight against those kind of villains. And he believes that all the heroes should be easily defeated. And so when it comes to Acts of Vengeance, Wolverine is going to fight against Tiger Shark, who is usually an enemy of Namor. Now, when it comes to this two-part story arc, like I said, it is part of Acts of Vengeance, but it's also continuing a storyline within Wolverine comics, where you have Wolverine about to invade a country. You see, in our last video, when it came to Wolverine, he was confronted by a character known as Geist. Now, when it came to Geist, he was working for the president of Terra Verde. Now, when it came to Terra Verde, they wanted their own superhuman. He got tired of the idea of seeing all these different kinds of superheroes coming from America, coming from other countries around the world, but he does not have a superhero for his country. And so when it came to Geist, that was his job. And he tried to complete the job by using cocaine. Yes, you heard that right. And so when it came to Geist, he went over to Madripoor and he kidnapped a character known as Roughhouse. Now, Roughhouse was an enemy of Wolverine, but by this point in Marvel Comics, even though they did not like each other, they did like fighting against each other, a sparring partner. And so for Wolverine, he wants his sparring partner back, but also he wants to help out Roughhouse and get him out of that kind of experiment. And so that is why he is trying to invade Terra Verde. Now, as soon as Wolverine arrives in Terra Verde, he does see a young woman fighting against a character known as Tiger Shark. Now, I kind of want to focus on Tiger Shark first before we move into the new character who's only going to be in Marvel for a short period of time. Now, when it comes to Tiger Shark, He was a great swimmer, but unfortunately he was seriously injured when it came to him trying to save someone from drowning. Now, after being injured, he was desperate to regain the ability to swim again, and so unfortunately he went through an experiment where he was given the DNA of Namor, but also the DNA of a tiger shark, hence the name Tiger Shark. Now, the next character I do want to talk about is going to be Bandera. Now, when it comes to Bandera, she is actually a mutant, but she is a young teenager from Florida. And you're probably wondering, why in the world is she here in Terra Verde? Let me explain. Because of her father. You see, her father had taken part in the revolution in Cuba, but then kind of got tired of it and moved over to Florida. But unfortunately, he got addicted to drugs. And so when it came to Bandera, she realized the drugs were coming from Terra Verde. She also realized that Terra Verde is technically being ruled by an evil president. And so her goal is to lead a revolution in this country to get rid of corruption. Now, when it comes to Tiger Shark, he's helping out Terra Verde by going after Bandera. But in reality, Tiger Shark was actually hired by somebody else to handle Terra Verde. And I'll explain more of that here in a moment. But you have Wolverine and Bandera being able to do enough damage to Tiger Shark to make him retreat for the time being. Now, after you have Wolverine and Bandera being able to work together to get rid of Tiger Shark, you have Wolverine tell her, hey, you know what? Knock it off. You're too young to actually lead a revolution. You're too young to take part in this lifestyle. And so this is Wolverine trying his best to save her life. But for Bandera, no, this is the right thing to do, to lead a revolution in this country to hopefully get rid of the corruption in this country. Now, we do jump over to President Felix, who is having a conversation with the Kingpin. Now, this is where we learn why Tiger Shark was in Terra Verde. You see, when it comes to the Kingpin, him being the king of crime, he had different operations in Florida. And of course, those operations were really more drug operations. But you'd have Bandera going out of her way to ruin those operations. And so once he got word that she was going to head over to Terra Verde, where the Kingpin gets most of his drugs from, he called up Tiger Shark, because by this point in Acts of Vengeance, he was part of the main group alongside with Dr. Doom and our mysterious character. But he did send in Tiger Shark to go after Bandera to kill her before she could ruin his operations. Now, when it comes to Felix, the president of Terra Verde, the reason why he is so upset because the Kingpin did not bother to ask Felix to allow Tiger Shark into his country. And it's kind of like, dude, you have to ask. You have no right to send in your people without my permission. But for the Kingpin, he does not care at all. Now, after Felix had finished his conversation with the Kingpin, you did have Felix have another conversation with Geist, but that conversation is not really important. What really is important is that as soon as you have Felix leave the room, you have Wolverine being able to sneak into the room and get the jump on Geist and demand Geist to show him where are they keeping Roughhouse at, because he is here to save Roughhouse and go back home to Madripoor. Now, I want to shift our focus over to Felix and also his wife, Sister Salvation. Now, here is the reason why. Because she is also a mutant. She has the ability to heal people by just touching them. And that's really important because when it comes to Roughhouse, even though with him taking in all those different kinds of cocaine and becoming stronger and stronger, it's doing numbers to his body. And so when it comes to Felix, he wants to use his wife's ability to heal the mind and body of Roughhouse, but to also finally have his own personal superhero. Now, when it comes to Sister Salvation, honestly, she does not want to help out Felix at all because of his corrupted ways. But right now, he's holding on to their son. If she wants to see her son, she has to help the man she hates so much. Now, while you have Wolverine trying to use Geist to lead him over to Rough House, and while you have Sister Salvation trying to heal the mind and body of Rough House, well, that is when Bandera goes for another attack to hopefully free Terra Verde, except this time her attack is to attack the home of the president, the main base of all corruption in this country. And of course, when it comes to her next attack alongside a few people who stand with her, they're doing some serious damage to the building. And so Wolverine realized he has to hurry to find Rough House to get the heck out of there. Now, when it comes to Geist, he knew that Wolverine would try this. And so while you have Geist supposedly leading Wolverine over to where Rough House is at, well then, he is jumped by Tiger Shark. And so now Wolverine once again has to fight against Tiger Shark, except this time he has to fight Tiger Shark in the water. And that is not a fair battle at all for our hero. Now, as we dive into the second chapter, we do pick up with Wolverine continuing to fight against Tiger Shark. Now, this battle, like I said a moment ago, is taking place underwater, but this section really shows that Tiger Shark actually has the advantage here. Unfortunately for Wolverine, his chances of winning is now very slim, and he's trying his best to get back to the surface, back to land, so that he'll be able to actually have an advantage when it comes to fighting against Tiger Shark, but unfortunately, Tiger Shark is not going to allow that. Now, you do have Tiger Shark take Wolverine to the bottom of the body of water and take his claws and get them stuck in some rocks so that Wolverine can no longer follow him while Tiger Shark goes after his original target. Now we jump back over to Bandera and we see her head over to a certain part of the building because she believes that apparently there are some people who are being held against their will right now, some prisoners, and so it's up to her to actually save them. Except when she gets to that room, when she walks into that room, she is confronted by Geist. And we kind of find out that Geist and the president knew if they were able to share that kind of information out there to the world, they knew that she would bite on that information and come here and make her an easy target for Tiger Shark, who does appear right behind her and tries to grab her. Now she is able to get rid of him, but of course now he's going to chase after her to finish his assignment. Now, while all of this is going on, you still have the president still wanting to have his superhero made by using Rough House. But of course, he needs his wife, Sister Salvation, to go ahead and use her ability to heal the mind and body of Rough House. And so she walks into the room, but again, the only reason why she's doing this is to have the ability to finally see her son. And she tells us that she really does hate to help the man that she hates so much, but again, she's doing all of this to have the ability to see her son. Now, getting back over to Bandera, we do see that Bandera is still being chased down by Tiger Shark. Now, luckily, Wolverine was able to come back and be able to save her butt from Tiger Shark. And you have Wolverine use his claws to make sure that Tiger Shark does not get back up once again. Now, you do have Tiger Shark fall away into the water that's in the actual base, and so we're left to wonder if he's dead or not. But either way, Wolverine's main goal is to save Rough House, and so he continues on with that mission. Now, once you have Wolverine and also Bandera being able to find Rough House and being able to free him, well, their next goal is to escape. And their main plan of escaping is to use the helicopter on the rooftop. But the helicopter is surrounded by a bunch of guards. But when it comes to Wolverine and Bandera, when they have found Rough House, they also found the president and Sister Salvation. And so when it comes to Wolverine, they can use the president as a guard to allow them access to the helicopter and to leave. Now, when it comes to Geist, he says, listen, even though they're currently holding on to our president as a hostage, I can still take a shot at Wolverine with my minigun hand here. And once I get that shot, bam, the day will be saved for us. But the problem is for the bad guys here is that Bandera did not come alone. She came with people who also wanted to end corruption in this country. Now, even though they were also captured, they were able to start a riot. And Geist no longer has a shot to take at Wolverine. And so Wolverine, Bandera, and Roughhouse were able to get on the chopper, but also Sister Salvation. Now there is a moment where you do have Tiger Shark reappear one more time, trying to kill off Wolverine and Bandera, but our heroes were able to get rid of him and fly away with the helicopter. And so for Wolverine, the day is saved. He was able to get Roughhouse. But we already know that when it comes to Geist and also the president, they are not going to let this go at all. They're going to come back again and get revenge against Wolverine, most likely very soon. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to Days of Future Present, the next crossover that we are going to talk about. But now we have to jump into Wolverine once again, and we're going to cover Wolverine number 21, 22, and 23, a three-part story arc where it does pick up right after Acts of Vengeance for Wolverine. Now remember, in our last video, you had Wolverine invade a country better known as Terra Verde to save a close friend of his, and that would be Roughhouse. Now at the end of our last video, he was able to save Roughhouse, and we were left to believe that Wolverine and his crew were able to leave freely and go back home. But apparently that did not happen. And so as we are diving into today's video, we come to find out that apparently the helicopter that Wolverine and the other used had apparently crashed in the jungle of Terra Verde. Now the helicopter was found by a character known as Geist. Now Geist was the main bad guy in our last two videos for Wolverine. When it comes to Geist, he was actually hired by the president of Terra Verde. You see, the president wanted his own superhuman. He got tired of the idea of seeing other countries around the world being able to have their own superheroes. He wanted his own, and so he hired, of course, Geist. Now when it came to Geist, he decided to use a special kind of cocaine that should be able to give someone abilities. Now when it came to Geist, he had kidnapped Roughhouse, who was an enemy of Wolverine, but by the time you had Geist kidnap Roughhouse, Wolverine and Roughhouse became somewhat friends. Either way, he kidnapped Roughhouse to use him as a test subject, hoping that he could perfect his new cocaine drug so that Terra Verde can then have their own super soldiers. Now when it comes to Geist, when he finds the helicopter, well, everyone on there is currently missing, and we're left to wonder, where in the world are they? And so we kind of find out that Wolverine, Roughhouse, and also Sister Salvation were able to get away from the helicopter crash. Now here's the thing, there was another character with them, but I'm going to save her for later on in this video. Now when it comes to Wolverine, he's currently being contained by Roughhouse because we kind of find out at the end of our last video, he was hit with some kind of needles that had doses of cocaine inside of them. Geist cocaine. And so currently his healing factor is trying its best to fight against cocaine in his bloodstream. Now when it comes to Roughhouse, he is able to hold down Wolverine, but you have Roughhouse asking Sister Salvation to help out. Now when it comes to Sister Salvation, she is a mutant. She has the ability to heal people by just touching them. But here's the thing, she's also the wife to President Felix. Now she had left him a long time ago because he was so corrupt. But of course, she was forced to come back because he needed her help with the whole cocaine experiment. But he told her, if you help out, I will allow you to see our son once again. And so she did. Now, when it comes to Sister Salvation, she is able to use her abilities to calm down Wolverine for just a moment. But that cocaine is still inside his body. His healing factor is working overtime to hopefully get rid of it. And so she tells Wolverine in Roughhouse that sooner or later, he's gonna have another Berserk episode very soon. And she is actually right, because after a while, you do have our heroes still trying their best to hide from Geist and his soldiers, but Wolverine has another episode where he goes berserk, and you have Roughhouse once again having to try to contain Wolverine. Now, when it comes to Wolverine, he begins to hallucinate to the point where he believes that he's back in World War II and he's currently fighting against the Nazis. Now, we do get a few pages of him just being a savage animal, but it really shows the cocaine is doing a number to his mind and body, and his healing factor is seriously struggling to get rid of the cocaine in his body. Now, in the middle of this hallucination, he's then confronted by Sister Salvation, who's once again trying her best to use her abilities to calm down Wolverine. But at the same time, she's also trying to inform him that she has to let him know that he has to fight. He has to keep fighting. Do not let into the cocaine, because if you do, you are going to lose. It will take over your body completely and possibly kill you. Now, in the middle of this hallucination, you didn't have Wolverine kiss Sister Salvation in this hallucination. Now, it actually does happen in the real world as well, except only Wolverine and Sister Salvation know about it. Roughhouse had apparently passed out, and so when he wakes up, he sees that Wolverine is back on the ground again, but at the same time, he sees Sister Salvation kind of dazed. And we know why she's dazed. She was just kissed by a man she only knew for about a few hours, and that is it. Either way, you have Roughhouse continue to hold on to Wolverine as they try to find a safe place to hide. But getting back over to Wolverine's hallucination, it continues on to the point where he believes that he sees Geist currently giving Hitler a shave. And so you have Wolverine just barge into the actual building to hopefully kill off Hitler, but to also kill off Geist as well. Now again, this is an hallucination, and so for Wolverine, everything he is seeing is not real, but he has no idea. And so when he goes after Geist and also Hitler, they disappear, but then some other kind of creature appears, and this creature is better known as Spore. And Spore has technically been one of the main bad guys who has been hiding behind the scenes. And what I mean by that is Spore was actually created by the Deviants to use against the Eternals. So let me explain. When it comes to the Deviants, they're always at war against the Eternals for many, many years, but they're always losing the war. And so what they did was they created a being who would give them the ability to take down the Eternals, and that would be Spore. Now, when it comes to Spore, he had the ability to absorb almost anything in its path. But here's the problem. You see, you had a Celestial stepped in because the Eternals were just losing non-stop. And the Celestials believed that they had killed off Spore, but they did not. You see, what happened was Spore was able to stay alive because he was broken down into smaller particles and he was laced across the soil in Terra Verde, the same soil that is used to help Geist and Felix grow their cocaine. And so when it comes to Geist being able to give different people his special cocaine, and the reason why they're gaining abilities is because of Spore. Now, I'm not done yet, because Spore says he has been looking for the perfect host to use as a way to regrow to his original state. And so that is why we had so many different people be injected with the cocaine but not being able to survive, because Spore has been trying to use those people to regrow back to his original state, but unfortunately they end up dying. And so now he believes that Wolverine is the perfect host to use as a way to come back to his original state. And so now it's up to Wolverine to find a way to kick Spore out of his body. Now, Wolverine does remember what Sister Salvation had told him, that the only way to break out of this, to get out of this state you're in right now, is to keep fighting, which he also means kick your healing factor to overdrive, because your healing factor is the only way that you are going to survive. And so with his healing factor, but also him being able to fight back, he was able to push Spore right out of his body. Now, once he wakes up, he does see that Sister Salvation was working so hard to make sure that Wolverine survives. Also, Rough House as well. But things get even worse, because when it comes to Wolverine, he believes that maybe him and also Sister Salvation could possibly build a bond with one another. Except we kind of find out that when our heroes were trying to get away from Geist and also the army of Terra Verde, Sister Salvation was leaving clues behind to hopefully be found by them. Because again, the only reason why she helped out President Felix was to be able to see her son. And so for her, she's kind of like, yeah, I had to betray you. Yes, I saved your life, but I want to see my son. And so I left clues behind to help them find us so I can see my son. And so as we dive into the next chapter, we do pick up with Wolverine and Rough House now being prisoners for Terra Verde once again. Now, when it comes to Geist and also the president, they want to continue the experiment. They want to continue the idea of creating a super soldier that will be working for Terra Verde. Now, as soon as you have the president leave Wolverine and also Rough House behind, he's then confronted by Sister Salvation, who is demanding to see her son. And he says, fine, you want to see your son? Follow me. And we kind of find out that their son is a soldier for the army of Terra Verde, and his name is Paulo. Now, when it comes to the president, he has some big plans for Paulo very soon. But he does tell the sister, you are allowed to be with your son for the afternoon. But by nighttime, you and I and him are going to sit down to talk further about how everything is going to work out between us and this family. But getting back over to Wolverine and Rough House, we kind of find out that they are currently being held inside a prison. Now, inside that prison, they're also bound by chains. But when it comes to Wolverine, he does inform us that Rough House has the ability to break out of those chains, but he's not doing it. And this is where we learn a tad bit about the origin of Rough House. We kind of find out that when he was a young boy, he was abused a lot by his father, and he was full of rage. And that rage was the reason why he was able to fight in so many different battles, that he was able to fight on even though he was pushed into a certain kind of corner. And so when it came to Sister Salvation, when she used her abilities to help him fight the cocaine inside his body, she also got rid of the rage that he was holding towards his father. Without that rage, he feels like he is unable to break out of the chains. But you have Wolverine trying his best to keep Rough House going by saying, dude, no, you have to keep trying, because if you don't, you are going to die. I am going to die. We're all going to die. And that is the moment you have Wolverine inform Rough House about Spore. And Spore still has a possibility of coming back. And if he does, once he finds the perfect host, it's game over for a lot of people. But now I want to jump back over to Sister Salvation, and here is the reason why. So she's trying to have a bonding moment with her son, which it does work out, except while having that bonding moment, the both of them are called into a room by President Felix. Now, when it comes to Felix, he begins to inform his ex-wife that he plans to use his son as the next test subject for the cocaine drug to hopefully make him into a super soldier. Now, while you have the two of them arguing with one another, you didn't have Roughhouse and Wolverine being able to break free. Really, for Roughhouse, he was able to regain the rage that would allow him to be strong enough to break out of his binds because he heard the screams of Sister Salvation. Now, after hearing her screams and breaking free and also Wolverine's free, you have the two of them head straight over to where Sister Salvation is at to figure out why in the world she was screaming for. And so when we jump back over to them, we kind of find out the reason why the president had allowed her to come back, but also allowed her to see her son, their son, because he wants to use her mutant ability. He knows that if his son goes through the actual experiment, he'll be going through a lot of pain, which most likely could possibly kill him. And so he wants to use his ex-wife ability to help heal their son as he goes through the process, to hopefully complete the entire process that will give this country their first super soldier. But she's very upset about the idea of her son going through this experiment. Now, luckily, Wolverine was able to arrive just in time to save Paulo. He was able to jump in front of the shots and use his claws to block most of them. Now, the rest of the needles that were fired out of Guy's hands did miss Wolverine and also miss Paulo, but they hit Felix. And so you have Wolverine say, hey, Mr. President, if you want to stay alive, I was you, I would start begging your wife here to actually help you out, because the entire process that you are about to go through is not going to be very nice. But you didn't have the sister say, no, I will not help you at all because how corrupt you are and how bad this country has become because of you. But then out of nowhere, you have our heroes hear explosions from the outside of the base. And we come to find out the military base is being under attack by a character known as La Bandera. Now, when it comes to La Bandera, we had talked about her in our last video, but something else I do want to mention is that she was with our heroes on the helicopter before it had crashed. She was the character I said I will talk about later. You see, when it comes to La Bandera, the only reason why she's here in Terra Verde is to liberate the country, to free the country from President Felix's control, because her father had died from being a drug addict. All the drugs her father took came from this country right here, from Felix. And so her main goal is to free this country. Now, she also has the ability to inspire other people, to have them fight alongside with her to hopefully free this country. Now, I want to jump back over to Felix, because you have Felix right now just processing the idea that he was just injected with the same cocaine that him and Geist were using as a way to create their own super soldier on other people. And so you have Felix saying, you know what? I still want to give my country something special. This is a man who is so devoted to give his country their first super soldier. He goes out of his way to inject more of the cocaine into himself, and he believes that he'll become a super soldier, but he doesn't. He turns into Spore, because remember, when it came to the cocaine that Geist was growing in this one area in Terra Verde, the soil was laced with Spore, and so Spore was the reason why all those different people were able to gain powers. But it was also Spore trying his best to find a host to use so that he'll be able to regain his original state. Now, Wolverine was the best option, but Wolverine's healing factor kicked him out. And so now when you have Felix just continuing to inject more and more of that cocaine, he now became a perfect host for Spore. And Spore, bam, just like that, it's back to his original state. And like we saw earlier, when it comes to Spore, he is able to absorb almost anything in his path. The only reason why he was stopped last time was because of the Celestials. And so now you have Wolverine, Roughhouse, Bandera having to work together to hopefully find a way to actually stop him, without the help of the Celestials or the Eternals. And so as we dive into the final chapter for today's video, we do pick up with our heroes trying their best to fight against Spore. But here's the problem though. Spore is able to regenerate after taking almost any kind of damage from our heroes. And so after a few pages, it does look like our heroes might not win, until you have Sister Salvation step in. Now, once she steps in, she's able to use her ability to heal to get rid of Spore, because technically Spore is an infection. An infection is a disease that has to be cured. And when it comes to her ability to cure almost any kind of medical issues, she was able to get rid of Spore. Her healing touch killed him off that easily. The day is saved. And so the following day, we do see our heroes beginning the process of trying to repair the damage that was done in this country by President Felix. And we get the idea that Roughhouse is going to stay here alongside with Sister Salvation to help guide the country in a better direction, also working alongside with La Bandera as well. Now, when it comes to Wolverine, there's still one person left he wants to get his hands on. And of course, he is talking about Geist. Now, when it comes to Geist, he believed that he would be able to sneak away when no one was noticing, when everyone was trying to see what are they going to do with Terra Verde. Instead, you have Wolverine saying, "Nah, man, I have been thinking about you this entire time. Felix is gone, which means you also have to pay for his crimes, including your crimes. They're being combined together into one." Now, once you have Wolverine being able to find Geist, you then have Wolverine use his claws to do some severe damage to the cyborg body of Geist, and then hand him over to Bandera. Now, right after you have Wolverine hand over Geist to the new government of Terra Verde, the following day he comes to find out that Geist was actually let go. And here's the reason why. Geist was actually working for the CIA. The CIA was trying their best to get rid of President Felix, and they were using Geist as their informant to gather any kind of information that would help them to get rid of Felix. Now, here's the problem. Wolverine is very upset about the idea the CIA worked with an ex-Nazi to allow him to basically get a free pass after all the crimes that he had committed. But either way, Geist is now a free man. Or is he? You see, you have Geist being able to get back over to Washington, D.C., except when he arrives at the safe house that he believes is actually safe, he's then confronted by Magneto. Now, when it comes to Magneto, we have to remember that he lived through the Holocaust, and we kind of find out that at one of the camps that Magneto was at, so was Geist. Geist was working at the camp that had apparently killed off the wife of Magneto. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics, but this time we're going to cover a story better known as Wolverine the Jungle Adventure. Yes, you heard that right. That's the name of the actual book. Now, this was a very interesting book, and the reason why, because it's the first time Wolverine had fought against Apocalypse in Marvel Comics. Yes, you heard that right. This is the first time Wolverine fought against Apocalypse. And matter of fact, there were some plans when it comes to Apocalypse that was going to be used when it came to Wolverine. But we'll talk more about that down the road at the very end of this video. But let's go ahead and dive into this very interesting story. Now, the opening page of this book, we do pick up with a tribe, better known as the Tribe of Fire. Now, we are not told at first where they are actually located at, but we will learn more about them later on in this book. Now, when it comes to the tribe, they have gathered together to hear a story about the time how heaven has sent its son to help them with all their different problems. And of course, they are talking about Wolverine. But now we must jump back in time and learn how Wolverine had helped this tribe. And so getting into the flashback, we actually do pick up with the Tribe of Fire right now praying to their gods. Matter of fact, they're praying to a lighter as a way to pray to their gods. But they're hoping that their gods would actually help them with all their different problems, to send somebody who could actually help them. And that is when you have Wolverine appear. Now, when Wolverine appears, he appears on plane, but apparently the only reason why he came to this exact location is to find a lighter that apparently he has been looking for a good few weeks. Now, once he does find the lighter, but also realize that he is surrounded by the Tribe of Fire, he's kind of wondering what in the world is going on. But Wolverine is very happy about the idea of having his lighter back, except right after getting his lighter, he's then confronted by the strongest warrior of this group, of this tribe. And the reason why the strongest warrior had appeared, because they don't believe the gods would send somebody like Wolverine, somebody who's so short and looks weak. And so, of course, they are going to test Wolverine to see if he is this great warrior that the gods has sent to them to help out. Now, when it comes to Wolverine, at first, he does struggle, but Wolverine is a well-trained fighter. He knows how to adapt. He knows how to take down his opponents. And so when it comes to Wolverine, he was able to take down this great warrior with no actual problem. Now, after you have Wolverine being able to take down the great warrior, you then have the Tribe of Fire begin to properly take care of Wolverine. Matter of fact, they give him a cave that's only suited for somebody like him, somebody who was sent by the gods to help them. Now, once you have Wolverine being able to settle inside the cave to get some rest, he's then confronted by the Great Warrior. And the Great Warrior's name is Gok. And I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, when it comes to Gok, at first, you will believe, okay, it has to be a powerful man, a powerful male. But we kind of find out it's actually a woman. Now, for Wolverine, this is great because one, she's like halfway naked, so he's automatically like, dude, you look hot. And two, it's a lady, and Wolverine loves ladies. Now, when it comes to Gok, she wants to know more about Wolverine, like, where did he come from? Why are you here? Were you actually sent by the gods? Now we begin to learn how in the world did Wolverine end up here in this jungle looking for his lighter. And so when it comes to Wolverine, he tells us how he arrived at this location. You see, in the past, you had Wolverine be invited to a theater to watch a play. Now, when it came to Wolverine, he's kind of like, whatever, I'll go to it. And he did. He enjoyed it. Now, when it came to the intermission, he went outside to get some fresh air. But then he was confronted by another guy who handed him a letter, a note, that was supposedly left behind by Jean Grey. Now, Wolverine knew it was not Jean Grey. The scent on the letter did not match her scent, but either way, he followed the directions on the letter, and it said, go behind the theater, which Wolverine did, except when he did, he was confronted by a cyborg. Now, at first, Wolverine had to protect himself, but after doing that, he was able to take down the cyborg. Now, at first, Wolverine believed that it was actually a superhuman being, not realizing it was a cyborg. Now, after killing off the cyborg, he was able to use his abilities to figure out where the cyborg actually came from. And he found out it came from the Savage Land. And now we know the Tribe of Fire, they're from the Savage Land. And so you had Wolverine begin to travel over to the Savage Land. Now, something else I do want to mention is that before he left, he also told us that his lighter was missing. And so now that explains why he arrived in front of the Tribe of Fire. Because while traveling to the Savage Land, he realized that he had picked up the scent of his lighter and said, you know what? Let me head there to see if there's any kind of clues on why in the world my lighter is here in the middle of the Savage Land after losing it back at the theater. Now, after hearing that story, we can see the tribe beginning to praise Wolverine, really showing that he could possibly been sent by the gods to actually help them. Now, we already know that he was not really sent by the gods, but for them, they believe that. And when they see him attack different kinds of creatures and being able to kill off the different kinds of creatures with his bare hands, it really shows for them that, yeah, he was sent by the gods. They love the Wolverine. Matter of fact, they call him that, the Wolverine, and they love him very much. Now, after a while, you have Wolverine just living a peaceful life with this tribe. He's actually enjoying the idea of being with them. But then here comes the problem. You see, out of nowhere, you have a group of hunters return to tell a very sad story that apparently a powerful creature that this tribe had been having problems with has returned. It's better known as the Honker of Doom. Now, it's a T-Rex, but they call it the Honker of Doom. But apparently the Honker only appears once every year or sometimes once a month. Either way, when it does appear nearby a hunting group, it always takes somebody away. Somebody always dies when the Honker of Doom appears. And apparently this hunting group had lost somebody known as Kafkal. Now, when it comes to Kafkal's father, he wants revenge against the monster. Now, at first, it's Wolverine kind of wondering, how powerful and crazy is this creature? And the way the tribe actually explains the creature to Wolverine, he would believe that it's some actual big beast. But later on, he's going to learn that it's actually a T-Rex. Now, when it comes to Wolverine and the Tribe of Fire, they actually do bring an entire big hunting group to hopefully bring down this beast. Now, at first, this beast is actually a struggle for Wolverine. There's a point where Wolverine is actually eaten alive. And for the Tribe of Fire, they're like, wait a second, he was our great warrior that was sent by the gods. And even the Honker of Doom was able to take him down. That's crazy. That's wild. What are we going to do? Now, we already know that Wolverine is not going to die that easily in the story. So after being eaten alive, he was able to cut himself out of the great beast, killing it. But here's the catch though. The Honker of Doom is not actually a T-Rex, an actual living being. Instead, it's a robot. And so you have Wolverine say, hey, you know what? Y'all been played entire time. This robot was made to come to your tribe to grab somebody and take them away for unknown reasons. I need to know where exactly the Honker of Doom actually came from. And once you have Wolverine learn the actual location, bam, he heads right over there right now to investigate that area of the Savage Land. And so once you have Wolverine go out of his way to investigate this actual area, he finds this random passageway and actually takes it. Now, here's the thing, because after taking it, well, he's then trapped inside some kind of container and he's then confronted by Apocalypse. Yep, Apocalypse was the mastermind behind this entire scheme. And guys, it only gets crazier. You see, when it comes to Apocalypse, we kind of find out that he is creating cyborgs to be the perfect assassins for him. Now, let me explain. So when it came to that T-Rex, after we learned it was a robot, but at first, when it came to the Tribe of Fire, They didn't know that. For them, the great monster was this great creature that would only appear every once in a while to grab one of their people and take them away. And they never saw that person ever again. And the reason why? Because that great creature was a robot working for Apocalypse to grab somebody to bring them back to him so that he could use them for his experiment, to turn them into cyborgs. Now remember, the Tribe of Fire said that sometimes the great creature would only appear once a year, once every 3 or 4 months. It all depends on Apocalypse and his ability into creating the cyborgs. If he found a way to move faster, the creature would appear more often. But if he had to wait a while to regather resources, it would take a while for the creature to reappear. Now, when it came to Wolverine, he fought against a cyborg earlier. That cyborg came from Apocalypse because Apocalypse wanted Wolverine here to make Wolverine his next cyborg, to use him because he would be the perfect assassin. Now, Wolverine is currently trapped right now inside a container, but then Wolverine is actually saved by Gak. Now, guys, after being saved by Gak and being able to break free, you have Wolverine go to town on Apocalypse, starts beating him down. Now, at first, I'm like, yo, there's no way that Wolverine is going to beat Apocalypse. But in the first few pages of their battle, it's Wolverine just cutting up Apocalypse, leading folks to believe that Wolverine is actually going to win. But we kind of find out that this Apocalypse is actually a robot. Now, before Wolverine kills off this robot version of Apocalypse, we also do learn that this Apocalypse is not thinking the same as the original Apocalypse, because this one right here was trying to create cyborgs as a way to kill off mutants, to make the world safe for humans. And that's not Apocalypse at all. This is a robot that has just gone completely in a different direction from its creator. But once you have Wolverine get rid of the robot, well, he's then confronted by the real Apocalypse. Now, this is where I kind of want to talk more about Apocalypse, because I saw something saying that when it came to Chris Claremont and the writing team around that time he worked with, the original goal for Apocalypse was to be the actual reasoning behind Wolverine and Weapon X. But we already know that's not actually true. Things were changed behind the scenes for other characters to take up that actual role. Now, when it comes to Apocalypse, it's a very short conversation with him being there as a hologram to talk to Wolverine. And this is the real Apocalypse. And he tells Wolverine, hey man, listen, thank you for getting rid of that fake one. Like, I've been watching him and I kind of realized that sooner or later I had to take care of him because he was no longer working in my goals. But at the same time, I realized that he was going to pick you as his next target to work on. And I felt like this was the perfect time to test you, to watch you and learn more about you. Now, their conversation ends very quickly with Apocalypse just ending the call as a hologram. Now, when it comes to Wolverine's lighter, it was actually a gift given to him by Nick Fury. Inside the lighter is a secret weapon that allowed Wolverine to blow up the entire base that belonged to Apocalypse, the robot Apocalypse. But once the lab is gone, Wolverine is able to just continue on his life. Matter of fact, he leaves the Tribe of Fire behind to go back home to the X-Men. There's one more thing I do want to talk about. The idea of Wolverine having a son. Yes, you heard that right. You see, at the very end, the very last page of this book, we do see Gak holding a son, and the son's name is Arista. But apparently, we were left to believe that the young boy is Wolverine's son. You see, there was a handbook back in 2004, a X-Men handbook, that did mention the idea of this boy being Wolverine's son. So yes, Wolverine has another child out there, but unfortunately, we don't see this child ever again in Marvel Comics. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to the Extinction Agenda, the next crossover that we are going to talk about. But first, we gotta jump back over to some Wolverine and cover a graphic novel known as Wolverine, Reign of Terra. Now, this was written by Peter David. We also got some Andy Kubert in here as well. This is a very interesting book right here, guys, because it's Wolverine traveling to an alternate universe to go up against wizards, going up against magic, but a magical Magneto. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. Now, the opening pages of this book does a really good job into bringing you in and want to know what exactly is going on. And so we actually picked up with the New Mutants. Now, around this time in X-Men comics, the New Mutants were being led by Cable. Now, we don't know much about Cable, but he is their teacher. But we see that the New Mutants and Cable had to tie down and lock up Rain Sinclair, better known as Wolfbane. And the reason why? Because she's not acting like herself. She's out there screaming, saying that she is a princess. Where's her knights? Where's her mages? Where's her castle? And for our heroes, they're kind of wondering, what are you talking about? Like, you're no princess, you have no castle, your dad is not like you, and matter of fact, we're not your knights nor your mages. What are you talking about? But she says, no, you guys are crazy, you guys had kidnapped me, what in the world is going on? And they have no choice but to go ahead and walk away and close the door to keep her inside of there until she is able to calm down. But you have our heroes wondering, what is she talking about? What is wrong with her mind? But then we jump over to another character and we pick up with a guy that looks just like Cable, but it's not Cable. He's a regular mage apparently. And currently he's at the lake just minding his business until he realized some great beast has arrived behind him. And that great beast is no other than Wolverine. Now, for our mage, he does try his best to fight against Wolverine, but we can see that our good old boy Logan is right now in a berserker rage. He is going crazy, trying to kill off this mage that looks just like Cable. Now, Wolverine is able to get a few hits in. When I say hits, I mean some good old stabs in on the mage. But then the mage is able to release his rod, and his rod is a character that looks like Warlock that had involved in some kind of big, huge creature to battle against Wolverine. But Logan, once again, is able to take care of that creature as well. But now we have to jump over to a castle where we actually pick up with a princess. And this is Princess Rain. Not Rain Sinclair, just Princess Rain. But she does look like our Rain Sinclair back in the main Marvel universe. And matter of fact, we're going to see other characters appear in this book that look very similar to other characters in the main Marvel universe. But this is the princess of the land better known as Gisham. But now we are able to begin to learn more about the kingdom, where we actually pick up with the people of the kingdom. Now, some of the people, they really do love the princess, but some people, they feel sorry for her because they know that on her 16th birthday, she is supposed to die. You see, there is a prophecy that said on her 16th birthday, the princess will be killed off by some kind of beast. Now, like I said earlier though, some of the people of the kingdom, they love the princess. And one of them is a guy known as Doug. Now, Doug is really important for multiple reasons. The first is that he is the counterpart to Doug Ramsey in the main Marvel universe, better known as Cypher, who had died back in Fall of the Mutants, who was actually very close to Wolfbane. Matter of fact, it seemed like those two characters might get together, but unfortunately, he had died. And so in this reality, Doug is a regular person who's in love with the princess and really hopes that one day he'll be able to marry her. Now, there is another reason why he's so important, but that comes down the road. But now we are able to learn about more people in this reality. So for example, we kind of find out that for Princess Rain, she has a maid. That maid's name is, well, Tabby. Now back in the main Marvel universe, Tabby is Boom Boom. But in this reality, she is just a maid who is always there to help out the princess. Now, when it comes to Tabby, she is very concerned for Princess Rain because again, that prophecy saying that she is going to die. Now, while you have the two characters talking to one another, somebody else walks into the room. And this guy, his name is Richard. Now, when it comes to Richard, he is the counterpart to Richter back in the main Marvel universe, another close friend to Wolfbane. Now, when she looks at Richter, for a quick second, he looks like Richter back in the main Marvel universe, but then he changes back to his old knight self again. And she's very confused on why, when she had looked at Richter, that he had changed. Either way, you have the two characters saying that they're going to do their best to protect her. But now we have to jump over to Samuel. Now, when it comes to Samuel, he is actually this reality's version of Cannonball. And so when it comes to Samuel, he is another knight who's supposed to protect the princess. But we see him just riding his horse in the outside part of the kingdom, where he does find the staff that belonged to the mage earlier that looked like Cable, that was supposedly killed off by Wolverine, the great beast. And then you have Samuel turn around and he's confronted by the great beast. And you have the two characters begin to fight against one another, leaving us wondering who is going to win. But now we jump over to the main Marvel universe, where we still see Rain Sinclair still calling out for help. She's still hoping that somebody, one of her knights or her maid, will be able to save her from the New Mutants and Cable. And you have our heroes wondering what is wrong with their friend and how can they help their friend out. But now we have to jump back over to the princess. Now, when it comes to the princess, she's with her father. Now, when it comes to her father, this man is on the verge of death, like he is about to die very soon, but he wants to make sure that his daughter does survive past her 16th birthday. And so he is trying his best to just hold on until it actually passes. Now, earlier we have met two knights and a maid that were assigned to the princess. Well, there is a third knight, and that third knight, his name is Robert. Now, of course, he is this reality's counterpart to Sunspot back in the main Marvel universe. Now, when it comes to all three knights, they do have powers, but it's not like, okay, they are mutants and that's why they have powers. Instead, they were given different artifacts that allow them to have powers to use to protect the princess. Now, you then have Samuel appear. Now, when he appears, he tells the rest of the group that he had just barely survived fighting against the Great Beast, which means the Great Beast is on his way here right now to most likely kill off the princess. And so it's him saying, we got to get ready. Now, when it comes to the princess' father, the king, he is very concerned and he wants to have one last conversation with his daughter. But in the middle of that conversation, you have the princess kind of freak out. And she says, who are you? You are not my father. Who are these other people around me? And then right after she says that, the king falls down. He's about to die. But before he does die, the princess begins to act normal again and begins to freak out because her dad is dying. And then he does die. But now it's time for us to be introduced to the bad guy of the book, and that would be Magnus. Now, when it comes to Magnus, he is this reality's version of Magneto. Now, when it comes to Magnus, he was the one who brought Wolverine over to this reality. And here is the reason why. So he wants to use Wolverine to kill off the princess, because once she is gone and so is her father, then Magnus will be able to tap into the energy of the land. You see, when it comes to their castle, it was built on top of a magical land. And so for Magnus, he wants to tap into that energy. If he does that, then he'll become really powerful. And so that is why he brought Wolverine over here to kill off the princess. But the next page, we do see both Rain Sinclair's mourning the death of the king. Now we jump over to the main Marvel universe where we have Rain Sinclair, who believes she's the princess in her cell, knowing that her father has passed on. But back in the other reality, Princess Rain is mourning the death of her father, but very upset that she is not allowed to leave the castle to attend his funeral. Because again, they gotta make sure that she is protected until after her 16th birthday. Now earlier, we were left to believe the mage who looks just like Cable was killed off by Wolverine is actually still alive. And now, he's going to try his best to get back over to the castle to save the princess. But now you have the entire kingdom mourning the death of their king. Now, while doing that, you have Doug, one of the regular people of the kingdom, point up to the tower of the princess, knowing that she is not allowed to leave her castle to attend the funeral for her father. Now, when it comes to the princess, she turns around and she punches the maid right in the face. Now remember, her maid's name is Tabby, and Tabby is this reality's version of Boom Boom. And so she picks up her maid and puts the maid on her bed. But while doing that, the maid begins to change in front of her eyes into Boom Boom. And then you have the princess begin to think like she is Rain Sinclair, like she actually knows Boom Boom. And she's wondering, where is she? Why is she here? What in the world is going on? But then she turns back into the princess. Now, when it comes to the princess, her main goal is to use the maid as a way to trick anybody who may come in here and check on her so that she's able to sneak out the tower to go to her father's funeral. Now, for Wolverine, we know that he's now on the hunt by seeing him passing by the funeral. And while you have everybody there at the service, Wolverine is just walking right by and getting closer and closer to the princess. Now, back at the castle, back in the princess tower, you have Samuel walk back to the room to realize that the princess is gone. That instead, it was actually, well, Tabby, the maid. And so you had Tabby say the princess has left the castle. We have to find her right now before the beast gets to her, because if it does, it is going to kill her. Now, when it comes to Wolverine, he does find the princess, and it does seem like at first that she is going to die right here, right now, in front of her entire kingdom. But luckily for her, the three knights had arrived just in time to save her butt. Now, the three knights, they tried their best to fight against Wolverine. But when it comes to Logan, he's not somebody you can take down so easily. This is somebody who is going to be an actual challenge for you. And so we get a few pages of this battle of just Logan being able to go toe-to-toe with the three knights who are there to protect the princess. But throughout the entire battle, you have Magnus trying to tell Wolverine what to do, to keep pushing, but to only focus on the princess. Like, if you have to, go ahead, cut the knights, but get to the princess. She is your main target. Now, in the middle of the battle, you had Doug appear. Not a knight, just a random guy who's trying to get with the princess. But he does see that she is in danger. And so he goes out of his way to grab her and to get her far away from the battle. But Wolverine is on their trail. He is literally catching up very quickly. But then the princess turns into, well, a wolf. And remember, back in the main Marvel universe, well, Wolfbang's ability is to turn into a wolf. And so right now, we're seeing the princess being able to change into a wolf and fight back against Wolverine. Now, she is able to do enough damage to make Logan stop just for a moment, but long enough for Doug to get the princess back into the kingdom and then have the entire kingdom get ready for Logan. But this is Wolverine, so their defenses are not really that great when it comes to stopping someone like Wolverine, who was able to get through all the different crocodiles or alligators and actually be able to take on the guards who are watching the outside area of the kingdom. And so Wolverine is now inside the kingdom to continue his hunt for the princess. Now, you do have Wolverine being able to find the princess once again, except you have the princess once again change into a wolf form, kind of like Wolfbane does back in the main Marvel universe. Now, when you have the two characters battling against each other, once again, you have the princess beginning to talk like she is actually Rain Sinclair, like she actually knows Wolverine very well. And she keeps saying, this is not going to stop him at all. This is somebody who cannot be easily stopped. But at the same time, I do not belong here. Now, luckily for the princess, she has her maid nearby. And the maid is able to throw a bunch of liquor bottles at Wolverine and then set him on fire, hoping to kill him off or at least buy them some time. But the princess, who's now talking like the Rain Sinclair of our universe, she knows that Wolverine is only going to come back for another round. But this is where you had the story begin to wrap up very quickly because you didn't have Magnus appear. Now, when it comes to Magnus, he does inform us that the magical protection around the kingdom that kept him out was lowered. And so he was able to get in very easily. And so now his goal is to tap into the energy of the land, except the mage appears, the one that looks like Cable, and he is able to shoot an arrow right in the chest of Magnus. Now you would think, okay, the day is saved. Nope, you're wrong, because you have Magnus say, dude, it is going to take a whole lot more than one single arrow to take me down, especially with the idea that I don't have a heart when you hit it, so technically I'm good. And so then you have Magnus being able to tap into the energy of the land to grow in size. And when I say he grows in size, I mean this dude is like Giant Man right now. And so it really seems like the end for this kingdom, except now he is no longer controlling Wolverine. And he has no idea that Wolverine is currently, climbing his body to save the kingdom. And so you have Wolverine go inside the man's ear and just start stabbing his brain. And so Wolverine is able to save the kingdom after causing a lot of problems for the kingdom. And so this is where everything is told to us to figure out what exactly was going on here when it came to this story. So you have the mage of this reality said what he did was he took Rain Sinclair from the main Marvel universe and the princess from this reality and had them switch spots as a way to protect the princess, because he remembered that the princess was supposed to die on her 16th birthday. And so to protect her, he had the two switch spots. And then he brainwashed Rain Sinclair to make her believe that she was actually the princess. But the problem was his magic had worn off. And so that explained why she began to remember that she's not the princess, that in reality, she's Rain Sinclair. Now, back in the main Marvel universe, his magic did not work at all. And so when the princess had arrived in that reality, she automatically remembered that she is the princess, that she is not no Rain Sinclair. And so that is why the New Mutants had no idea what exactly was going on. And so with the Beast now being gone and Magnus being dead, he sends Rain Sinclair back to her reality and bring the princess back into her reality. And so with Wolfbane now being back in her own reality, she tries her best to explain everything to her team. But to her team, they really can't believe that what she actually went through until Wolverine appears. And when he appears, he confirms everything that she is saying. And so for the rest of the team, they cannot believe that what she had went through. But let's not forget that the New Mutants had just found out that the X-Men are still alive. And so seeing Logan, they're like, wait a second, that's Logan, which means Yes, what she went through is actually real. And on top of that, the X-Men are not dead. Because remember, back in Fall of the Mutants, the X-Men had given up their lives to stop the adversary on live television. And the world believed the X-Men had died that day, not knowing that soon after they had given up their lives, they were brought back to life by Lady Roma. And the X-Men just stick to the shadows and had the world believe that they were dead, until after a while more and more people began to find out that the X-Men were alive. And back in Days of Future Present, Storm told all the rest of the X-Men teams minus Excalibur that, hey, listen, we are alive, but currently we are disbanded, and I'm trying my best to find my team. And so for the New Mutants, this gives them confirmation that the X-Men are alive, including Wolverine. But he does leave and says, yes, what she went through is actually real, or was real. And this is what's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to the Extension Agenda, the next crossover that we're going to talk about on my channel very soon. But first, we have to jump back over to different X-Men books and cover different X-Men stories that actually led into that crossover. And so now we're going to jump back over to Wolverine and cover a 4-part story arc that takes place in Wolverine number 27, 28, 29, and 30. This 4-part story arc is actually called the Lazarus Project. Now, the Lazarus Project is actually a very interesting book, and here is the reason why. Because it wasn't finished. Yes, you heard that right. This is an incomplete story, and you see what I mean as we go through today's video, but I'll give you more details at the very end of the video. Now, the opening pages of this book does a great job in reminding us where is Wolverine around this time in Marvel Comics. Now, remember, when it comes to Logan and the rest of the X-Men, they are supposedly dead to the rest of the world. You see, back in Fall of the Mutants, you had the X-Men go up against the adversary, and they had to give up their lives to keep that powerful character out of this reality. But when they did that, well, it was done on live television. And so to the entire world, the X-Men died that day, not knowing that soon after they had given up their lives, they were brought back to life by Lady Roma. And so you had the X-Men just stick to the shadows as a way to pull off surprise attacks on their enemies. And when it comes to Logan, he has been hanging out in Madripoor. Now remember, Madripoor is this country in Marvel Comics, this small island that's actually ruled by a prince. But the laws here are very loose. You are able to get away with a lot of different crimes. Now, in the opening pages of this book, we do see Logan and also his friend Tiger being ambushed by some random thugs. Now, when it comes to Tiger, she is one of the 2 crime lords in Madripoor and a very close friend to Logan as well. Now, when I say close friend, I mean more like this is a girl he has feelings for, but unfortunately they're unable to build some kind of relationship with one another. Now, Tiger being one of the 2 crime lords of this island is not really important for this video, but the other crime lord is very important. And really, while you have Tiger and Logan being ambushed by those thugs, they get some help from Karma. Now, Karma is a founding member of the New Mutants. But by this point in Marvel Comics, she had left the team to go find her missing brother and sister. But unfortunately, she couldn't find them. And she had no choice but to go ask her uncle for help. Now, her uncle is General Coy, the other crime lord of the island, and also very important for this story arc. Now, once you have Logan and Tiger be able to handle the few thugs who try to ambush them, they head over to the Princess Bar. Now, the Princess Bar is usually owned by a character known as O'Donnell, but he's not here for this story. Now, something else I should also mention is that with the world believing that Logan is dead, he went by a different name, better known as Patch. But when you have Logan and Tiger arrive at the Princess Bar, they are then confronted by Jessica Drew and also Lindsay. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, Jessica was not Spider-Woman. She lost most of her powers. Not all of them, just most of them. But by this point, she was the bodyguard for the prince of the island. Even though he is crooked, he gave her a lot of money and a place to live in this country. And you have Logan tell her that she needs to go and do her job right now. Go be a bodyguard. But he also tells Jessica, you need to tell Lindsay to back off because the things she says towards Tiger could most likely get her killed down the road one day. But now we jump over to a smaller island. Now on this small island, we see a small village known as Rumika. Now Rumika has produced some of the greatest warriors that the world has ever seen. And that is really important. Here is the reason why. So when it comes to the elders of this village, they're having a meeting with two soldiers, Captain Merrick, the black guy, and also Target. Now, when it comes to the actual soldiers, they're handing over an item known as the Master Form, and they are asking the elders to watch over this item to make sure it does not fall in the wrong hands. But also, because this village has produced some of the greatest warriors the world has ever seen, they feel like those warriors should be able to protect the village, but to also protect the Master Form. But now we have to jump over to General Coy, who's having a meeting with, well, a new character known as Broker and Dover. Now, when it comes to Broker, him and Coy are basically talking about the Master Form and this project called Project Lazarus. And apparently everything is going as planned. And so they know where the form is actually at. It's over in this small village. And he's saying this is going to be great for everything else coming down the road. Now, Coy is not the only person part of this project. Matter of fact, the prince of the island, Prince Baron, is also part of this project. And he wants an update on how the project is actually going. And you have Coy and Broker being able to give that update over to the prince. Now, let's not forget that Jessica is the bodyguard for the prince. And so once she realized that the meeting room is secure, she begins to go into other parts of the palace to make sure those parts are also secure. But then she climbs by a room where you have two people talking about attacking that village we just saw a moment ago. Now, they're not going to attack the village anytime soon. Really, they're going to attack in a week or two. But for Jessica, she has to hear more. And so she sneaks into that room. Now, once you have Jessica being able to get inside the room, she overhears two characters talking to one another. One of those characters is Dr. Page. Now, when it comes to Dr. Page, she only appeared in this story arc. She won't appear anytime soon in other books down the road. Now, when it comes to Dr. Page, she's also talking to somebody else, but hiding in the shadows. And so, unfortunately, we have no idea who she is talking to. When it comes to our two characters, they're talking about the Master Form being at that village and most likely attacking the village in a week or two to gather material from that village, including the Master Form as well. Now for Jessica, unfortunately, she's not as good as making sure no one hears her in the room. And so Dr. Page realized there's a spy in the room, and she calls in a robot to go after Jessica, and that will be a robot named as Pinocchio. Now Pinocchio is going to be very important for this book. Now, when we pick back up with Jessica, it's later on in the day, and we see that she was badly beaten by that robot. Now, luckily for her, she was found by Wolverine, except when he found her, he realized that one, she's badly injured, and two, she needs to get far away from the island so that she can properly heal and nobody can come after her. And so he sends Jessica and her best friend Lindsay back over to the States. But you have Wolverine now heading over to the palace that belongs to the prince. Now, once you have Wolverine arrive at the palace, he goes into not berserker mode, but homeboy is ticked off and he takes out almost anybody in his path to get to Dr. Page. Now, once he's able to get to her, well, then she calls out Pinocchio once again. Now, when it comes to Pinocchio, he's able to survive all the attacks that Logan is using. And here is the reason why. The robot is actually covered in adamantium, the same kind of metal that covers Wolverine's bone. Now, in the middle of their battle, you then have Dr. Page throw some kind of chemical on Logan's face, where of course he's unable to battle for the time being. But he overhears her tell Pinocchio to grab Logan and to make him their hostage. And then she could most likely gather resources from his body. And he realized that he has to retreat. And so he jumps out a window into the harbor, into the water that's near the harbor. But getting into the next chapter, we pick up with Logan waking up at the shore of a small island. And of course, that island is Romika. Now, when he wakes up, he realizes that he does not remember anything at all. Not his name, why he's there, where he came from, none of that. Now, when he does wake up, he is confronted by a few members of a hunting party from Romika's small village. And currently, they're out there trying to fish. But while trying to do that, a shark kind of goes after their catch. Now, one of the members of this hunting party, his hand is actually caught in the net the shark is currently biting on to. And so he's being pulled into the ocean. And you have Logan going out of his way to help that member get out of that net before he was pulled into the middle of the ocean. Now, after doing that, they begin to thank him, but kind of wondering, hey, who are you? But unfortunately, Logan cannot answer their questions at all because he does not remember anything about him or his past part of his life. Now, when it comes to the hunting party, they feel bad for Logan because they realize this man is very serious about the idea that he does not know anything about himself or anything about his past. And so they take him over to the small village that we saw earlier. And we're also being reintroduced to the same elders we saw earlier. Now, these elders, they feel bad for Logan, and they realize that even though he had no idea where he was, who he is, and all those different kinds of questions, he went out of his way to help out the people who were in trouble in the hunting party. And so they give him a home to stay in for the time being up in the mountains. And Logan, he accepts the offer. Now, while you have Logan being able to really become one with the actual village, at night though, he begins to have those kind of nightmares. Those nightmares that kind of tells you, hey, you should remember these different things. But for Logan, he has no idea what these nightmares are truly trying to tell him. Now, when it comes to one nightmare he has, it keeps showing Pinocchio, that robot that was able to take him down in the last chapter. Now, on the outside of the village, we actually pick up with Target and also Captain Merrick, the two soldiers who had left the master form in the village. And they're very worried about the idea of leaving the master form in the village, really just Target. When it comes to Captain Merrick, he does have a lot of trust in the elders and their great warriors into protecting the actual master form from falling in the wrong hands. But for Target, he feels like something big is going to happen down the road to that village. But we also see that Karma also knows about the master form. Now, when it comes to Karma, she is very worried about the idea of the master form being in that village because she has heard rumors of different people wanting that small item, but also they'll do anything to get their hands on that small item. That means killing anyone who stands in their path. And she's very worried about the idea of the people of that village being killed off just for the master form. And really, Karma is correct to be worried. And here's the reason why. When we jump back over to the village, it gets attacked by an army of soldiers who just appeared out of nowhere. Now Logan, he was able to pick up on their scent and he tried his best to warn the people of the village that they're going to be attacked. But unfortunately, he was a tad bit too late. And so for Logan, he had to watch different people be shot down left and right by these soldiers. Now Logan, he tries to join in and they shoot him down as well. Now we already know Logan cannot die that easily, but for right now, he's knocked out. Now for Karma, she also arrived at the village, but she knows that she cannot jump into the battle because if she does, most likely she is going to die. There's too many of them. But she can use her abilities to protect the innocent people in the area in some kind of way. Now remember, when it comes to Karma, she has the ability to take over your mind, to make you do things that she wants you to do. And so for her, she used her powers to kind of make different soldiers not kill off different people in the village. Now there is one teenager who is holding on to the master form, and it seems at first that he might be able to get away, but he's then sniped right in the head. Just like that, almost every single person in this village is killed off. But you finally have Wolverine get right back up. Now, when he does, this man is angry because when he wakes up, the soldiers had just killed off what could be the last two survivors of this village. 2 young, innocent children killed off just like that. And so when Logan wakes back up, he goes directly after the soldiers, just killing them left and right. Now, once he's able to deal with those soldiers, you then have Karma come out to confront Logan. Now, she has no idea that for Logan, he has forgotten most of his past. He has no idea who he is, except he then begins to remember. That shot earlier that took him down began the process of helping him remember who he was, where he is at, and who Karma is as well. Now after that, you then have the 2 soldiers appear, Captain Merrick and also Target. Now at first, you do have the 2 soldiers tell our heroes, hey, we were the ones who gave the village the master form to protect, and they are able to find the master form. But here comes the problem though. You see, when it comes to Logan, he picks up the scent of Captain Merrick on all the soldiers in the area, which tells Logan, Karma, and his partner Target that Captain Merrick was the reason why these soldiers arrived here. Now, when it comes to Target, we begin to learn more about this character, and here is the reason why. Because in his past, his entire town was wiped out. His family was killed off because his family was also watching the master form as well. And so to see this entire village wiped out because of his captain, you have Target turn around and shoot the captain right in the head. And you have Logan and Karma wondering, what in the world is going on here? Now, the opening pages of this 3rd chapter, we do pick up with Wolverine, Karma, and also Target gathering the dead bodies of the villagers and putting those bodies into one big pile and burning all the bodies together. Now for Logan, he wants to know who the heck is Target? What is his story? Where did he come from? He wants to know everything about him. And so that leads into each character telling their story on how they got to this point right here. Now, I want to skip over Logan's. And matter of fact, I want to skip over Karma's as well. I want to shift our focus over to Target. And here is the reason why. Because his story gives us the origin for this character. You see, for Target, when he was a young boy, he lived with his mom, dad, and his cousin Ted. Now, here's the thing. His father was also asked in the past to watch over the master form, just like the elders were earlier in this story, and his father agreed to do it. But here comes the big problem. After a few days had passed by, their hometown was attacked by a group of soldiers. The home that Target lived in, was blown up, killing off his parents. Now, the master form survived the explosion and fell in the arms of Target and his cousin, but those two were the sole survivors of their neighborhood, and they were found by Captain Merrick, who then took them in and trained them into great soldiers. But after you had Target tell his story to Karma and Logan, well, Karma feels bad for Target, and she wants to bring him in, hold him, and comfort him, because to tell the story of the death of your family is a lot. Now, while doing that, you have Logan realize that more soldiers had arrived. And so for Logan, they gotta go as well. And so you have Logan, Karma, and Target work together to get rid of those soldiers. But Karma, she wants to bury the bodies as well. Sorry, not bury them, but burn the bodies as well with the villagers of Romika. And so you have Logan being able to accomplish that request for her. Now, after doing that, you have our heroes realize that when it comes to the master form, it's best to just leave it behind, because the problem is wherever it goes, it brings destruction. It should stay where it last caused destruction at. But for our heroes, it's now time to get some answers. It's time to head back over to Madripoor. Now, as we dive into the final chapter for today's video, is really where we kind of find out what is exactly going on when it comes to Project Lazarus. You see, we pick up with Dr. Page and Broker, and they technically tell us that when it comes to the master form, it's left behind in different areas around the world. But usually in those different areas, you always have somebody trying to be able to protect the actual master form from falling in the wrong hands. But then those areas are then attacked by an army of soldiers, and their main goal is to wipe out every single person in that area. Now, the whole reason why you had this going on is to see if anybody will be able to actually survive. And those survivors of those different attacks in different areas usually get brought in for special kind of projects, because they showed they know how to survive in serious situations. Now, I want you guys to keep that in mind, because when it comes to Pinocchio, he is actually very important. But now I want to shift our focus back onto Target, because you have Logan, Karma, and Target on their way back over to Madripoor. Like I said though, I want to shift our focus on the Target, and here is the reason why. So when it comes to Target, we do learn that after him and his cousin Ted were able to survive what happened to their neighborhood, they were brought into the army where they became soldiers. Now, when it came to Ted, he agreed to be part of some kind of super soldier program, and so he had disappeared. And so for Target, he never learned what exactly happened to his cousin after his cousin had joined that program. And that leads us into the big moment of the book, because once you have our heroes arrive back to Madripoor, they head straight over to the palace. Now, they barge into that place, and they're going after Dr. Page, Coy, and also Broker as well. Now, for Page, she does activate Pinocchio once again, this robot, to attack Wolverine. Now, when it comes to the robot, it also has the ability to heal. And so every single time you have Logan just cutting away, it is able to repair itself and get right back in the battle against Logan. Now, while you have Wolverine fighting against the robot, we kind of find out Pinocchio is actually Ted. And remember, Ted is the long lost cousin to Target, because after you had the two boys join the army, well, Ted left join some kind of super soldier program, and no one knew what happened to him after that moment. Now we know. He became some kind of cyborg robot or put inside this robotic suit. Either way, he's inside of there. Now his mind is still kind of being run as a computer, as a robot, not really as a human being. But right now, he's fighting against those programs, because once he sees Target, he realized, hey, that's my cousin. Like, I know him. I care for him. We're family. Now, for Dr. Page, that is a huge problem, because now she lost control of her latest experiment. Now, let's not forget, when it comes to Koi, General Koi, one of the two crime lords of Madripoor, but also the uncle to Karma, well, when it comes to Koi, the reason why he had joined Project Lazarus is because he wanted his own super soldier. Because remember, if the master form is left behind in some kind of village or town or neighborhood, that area gets attacked. But any survivor of that attack will then become the next super whatever, robot, cyborg, soldier, anything, a superpower being. And so for Koi, that is what he wanted. He was hoping that someone would survive in that village and become his next super soldier. But now Logan and his team had ruined that plan. Now for Karma, she tells her uncle they are done. You know what? She'll find her missing brother and sister on her own. And matter of fact, anything she owes him has been paid for now, because Logan was gonna kill off Koi, but she said no, let him live. But me telling him to let you live is me saying we are done and I don't owe you anything at all. Now for Dr. Page, she was able to get away very easily here, and this is how. So you had Dr. Page and the two guys from earlier run into an office as a way to hide from Wolverine, but he was able to find them, except when he walked into the room, the two guys with her had committed suicide. Now she had also committed suicide as well, it seemed, and so Logan thought, okay, you know what? All three of them are dead. I can move on. But as soon as Logan walked away, we kind of find out that Dr. Page did not commit suicide. She faked hers and then called somebody to bring in a chopper and put that chopper nearby so that she'll be able to get away. And just like that, bam, she was gone. Now, this was the only appearance of Dr. Page in Marvel Comics that I know of. She did not reappear ever again in any other comic book by Marvel Comics. Now, this is where in the video I'm going to tell you guys why I said earlier that this story was incomplete. So let me explain. When it comes to the Lazarus Project, there was supposed to be more to this actual story. You see, there was supposed to be another series kind of crossing over with this book called Fallen Angels 2, the sequel to the original Fallen Angels series given to us by Marvel Comics. But the sequel never came out. And so it seemed like when it came to the broker, Dr. Page, and the whole idea of the master form, we were supposed to see more of that in the Fallen Angels 2 series. And matter of fact, it seemed like the missing brother and sister for Karma was to also be resolved in that series as well. This whole idea of the Lazarus Project was supposed to be way bigger than what it actually was. And that's why I say this story is really incomplete, because you could tell as we went through the book, there was supposed to be a whole lot more content to help fill out things in this book. But yeah. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to the Extension Agenda, the next crossover that we are going to talk about. But first, we got to jump back over to some other books that lead into that actual crossover. And so we're going to jump over to Wolverine comics and cover a 3-part story arc that takes place in Wolverine number 31, 32, and 33. This 3-part story arc, we see Wolverine going up against the Yakuza. Now, in Japanese, it's pronounced Yakuza. In English, it's pronounced Yakuza. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to say Yakuza. But either way, it's Logan going up against them. And the reason why? Because somebody is trying to push out a new kind of drug, and they try to cross Wolverine. Now, something I also want to mention is that when it comes to the story, it takes place mostly in Madripoor. Now, Madripoor is one of the many countries in Marvel Comics where Logan loves to be at. Now, when it comes to Madripoor, well, you are able to get away with a lot of crimes there because the police officers usually look the other way. They are easily bought out by the criminals. Now, for Logan, like I said, he loves the idea of being there because he has more freedom to do things in that country. Now, when it comes to Logan, he has technically take ownership over a bar called the Princess Bar. It did belong to another character known as O'Donnell, but we have not seen him for a while. And really, in later parts of this story arc, he does mention the fact that he's now technically owner of half the Princess Bar. The other half still belongs to O'Donnell, but he's no longer around. Apparently, he just left. Now, for Logan, we do pick up with him at the Princess Bar having a drink with a character known as Archie. Now, when it comes to Archie, he's actually a pilot for one of the 2 crime lords in Madripoor, and her name is Tiger. And really, Tiger is close friends with Logan for, well, a lot of different reasons. But either way, though, when it comes to Archie and Logan, they're just having a drink at the Princess Bar, minding their business until they are confronted by some members of the Yakuza, sorry. Now, when it comes to the Yakuza, they are here to kill off Logan, but we're not exactly told why. Now, for Logan, we already know that this man is not scared of the challenge at all. He says, hey, Archie, go ahead and leave. It's time for me to have a conversation with these guys right now. Now, for Archie, his main goal is to, get out of there, get away from danger, but at the same time, come back with a weapon to actually help out Logan. Except when he gets outside of the actual bar, well, he is confronted by 2 more members of the Yakuza. Now, these 2 members are going to be somewhat important for the story arc. One of them known as Rico, the young female, and the other one known as Goro. Now, when it comes to Rico, she actually does reappear in later books on the road for Marvel Comics. Now, when you have Archie being confronted by them, well, you have Rico tell Goro, let him go, because they're not there for Archie. They're there for Logan. Now, we don't know why just yet, but we're going to learn very soon. But getting back into the bar, you have the Yakuza truly believe that they are able to take on Logan. Now, something else I should mention is that when it came to X-Men comics around this time, most of the world truly believed that the X-Men had died back in Fall of the Mutants. You see, you had the X-Men give up their lives to some a character known as the Adversary. But when they did that, well, it was done on live television. And so to the entire world, the X-Men had died that day. But in reality, they were brought back to life thanks to Lady Roma. But you had the X-Men say, let's stick to the shadows as a way to attack our enemies from the shadows. Let the world believe we are dead and gives us more ability to move easily in the shadows. And so for Logan, when he arrived into Madripoor, he took up a different name, better known as Patch. And so for the Yakuza, they're calling him Patch, not really Logan. But either way, they still believe that they are able to take him down. But unfortunately, well, Patch, aka Logan, is not somebody you can take down so easily. But now we have to jump over to the Prince Palace, which belongs to Prince Baron. Now, when it comes to Prince Baron, he is the ruler of Madripoor. Now, he does know that his country is full of crime, but most of the time he looks the other way. Why? Because he can make a profit off those crimes being committed in his country. Now, when it comes to Prince Baron, though, he has two crime lords to watch over crime in his country, General Koi and Tiger, who again is a close friend to Wolverine. Now, when it comes to Koi and Tiger, they basically run things differently from one another. You see, when it comes to Koi, he loves the idea of pushing drugs and slaves into the country. But for Tiger, she loves the idea of pushing weapons into the country. Now we see all three characters right now having a meeting with the leader of the Yakuza clan that's currently in Madripoor going after Logan. And their name is Daikumo. Now when it comes to Daikumo, they're being led by a guy named Daikumo. But the reason why you have all these different characters right now having a meeting is because when it comes to the Yakuza, they're trying to create a new kind of serum that could most likely be the cure for cancer. And the thing is, they need a certain kind of fluid that's only found from the brains of a certain kind of monkey that's only in Madripoor. And so they're here to ask the prince, hey, can we get approval to come to your country, kill off some monkeys to collect their brain fluids, to use the fluids to create our serum? Now, here's the thing. Those monkeys are in danger. But on top of that, some of the villagers in Madripoor, they look at those monkeys as special kind of beings. And the reason why, because those monkeys are usually mentioned in a ton of folklore in Madripoor. But for the prince, he does not care, because why? He can make a lot of money from this deal. And so he does approve the idea to allow the Yakuza to come into his country to kill off an endangered species, to collect some kind of fluid from the brain and then use that fluid to create a serum for cancer. Now, once they're able to get the serum, they're going to sell it, but only to the rich people, because those rich folks are going to pay a lot of money for that kind of medicine. Now, getting back over to Logan, you have Logan just going ham on all these different guys who are trying to bring him down. Now, we still don't know truly why the Yakuza are going after him for just yet, but we do see Wolverine kind of going into his berserker rage. Now, it's not completely his berserker rage, but just to the point where every single member of the Yakuza who were in the Princess Bar has been officially killed off, but they were told to bring his head back over to their boss. But we do learn why they're going after Wolverine for, because they know that when it comes to Logan, most likely this man is going to intervene on their plans. Because here's the thing, when it comes to Prince Baron and also Daikumo, the leader of the clan, they know that Patch is always involved in some kind of plan that Prince Baron and Koi has going on. And so because of that, they know that sooner or later, he is going to ruin their operation. So why not go ahead and try to kill him off? But on top of that, the people of Madripoor would be very upset about the fact that their country is being used for some kind of operation to create some kind of serum to kill off creatures that's part of their folklore. And so if those people get upset, Logan would try to do what's right for the people, and he would get involved in basically stopping this whole entire operation. And the prince and Daikumo will lose a lot of money. And so that is why they have to get rid of him. Get him out of the way. Now, when it comes to Tiger, she tries her best to warn them both, like going after Patch is most likely a bad idea. He's not a man you can take down so easily. Matter of fact, if you try to take him down, he'll just come back even stronger and then take you guys down the road. Now, getting back over to Logan, when he does leave the Princess Bar, he is confronted by 3 more members of the Yakuza. Now, these 3 members of the Yakuza, they are a tad bit different from the ones earlier. And this is how, because they are taking a pill better known as Thunderbolt. Now, once you have taken the pill, you're going to gain super strength, but you're also going to lose the ability to feel pain. And so, for example, when you have Logan stab one of them, well, they're able to continue on because they cannot feel the fact that they were just stabbed by Wolverine. Now, with their super strength and also the ability to no longer feel pain, they truly believe that they now have the ability to kill off Logan. Matter of fact, cut his head off. But because his bones are covered in adamantium, he is somewhat protected from their blades. And so you have Logan being able to take down both guys very easily. Not easily, like they do give him an actual challenge, but once he's able to take them down, he's then found by Tiger and also Archie. Now, when it comes to Logan, he wants to know what in the heck is going on here. Why were those guys after him? What's happening right now in Madripoor? And so now it's up to Tiger to inform Logan what exactly is going on. But as we dive into the next chapter, we see the clan going ahead with the idea of collecting monkeys to use for their experiment. Now, when it comes to the clan collecting these monkeys, we actually see some villagers from nearby villages showing us that they're very concerned about what these men are doing to the monkeys. Now, they're not telling the men like, oh, don't worry, we're just here to help out the monkeys. No, they're not saying a word at all. They told these guys, hey, show us where we can find these monkeys. And once they find them, bam, they knock out the monkeys, collect them, and begin to use them for their experiment. And you have these villagers very worried about the monkeys, wondering why the clan is doing what they're doing right now to these small creatures. Now, when it comes to Dead Kumo, he does get word about what happened when it came to Logan, because earlier he had sent Goro, one of his best assassins, to take care of Wolverine. But now he's getting word that Goro was unable to kill off Wolverine. Now, for Kumo, it's more of, I gave you that job. And when I give you a job, I expect you to go ahead and accomplish the actual job. Now for Goro, he does say, listen, I thought my men could handle it for me, but they failed. But because they failed, that means he also failed. And when you fail, you have to give up a finger in the actual clan. And so you have Kumo say, you better fix your mistake right now and kill off Wolverine. Kill off this guy named Patch. Now, when it comes to Goro, he's also with a young girl named Rico, and we saw her earlier in this video. Now, when it comes to Rico, we do learn that the only reason why she is here because Goro had paid for her father's debt, which means that he technically owns her. Now, yes, they got married, but it's more of like, hey, I'm marrying you as a way for your dad to pay me back for what I did for him. And so, unfortunately, she has to work alongside with the man. But every single day, she's hoping that somebody just kills him off. But either way, they begin to head towards Logan. Now, when it comes to Tiger and Archie, they tell Logan to stay here in her penthouse so that he is able to recover. But as soon as they leave, you then have Tiger tell her men, your goal is to watch the elevator. Make sure that nobody is allowed to go up to the top floor, my penthouse. But also, I have a lot of faith in you guys because I know that you guys are my best warriors. So I'm hoping you are able to accomplish the job in protecting my friend upstairs. Yeah, they completely fail because as soon as she leaves with Archie, that is when you then have Goro and also Rico appear. And at first they're kind of being somewhat friendly, but that friendliness goes away very quickly because then you have our two assassins being able to take out the guys and head up to the penthouse to find Logan. Now, these guys are actually able to take down Wolverine, but really because he he hasn't completely healed up yet from the earlier battle. And so when you have Goro being able to stab Wolverine, it's really because of pure luck that he hasn't healed up completely. And so Wolverine passes out. Now for Goro, he believes that he had killed off Wolverine, and he takes a photo to hand that photo over to his boss to prove that he was able to kill off Logan. Now, when it comes to Logan, we already know that this man is not dead, that most likely he will get right back up and be able to bring down the whole entire clan. But before he does that, we see him kind of traveling towards the light. He's at this near-death situation where it seems that he's going to die, but then he's confronted by Jean Grey. Now, for me personally, it feels like this is Jean Grey's spirit, who was on the verge of death back in the Phoenix Saga. But of course, as we know, she never did die. She actually survived thanks to the Phoenix. And so because she had experienced a near-death situation, it's her spirit telling Wolverine, it's not your time yet. And matter of fact, you need to go back to the land of the living. Now for Logan, he does see a huge amount of energy just pouring out of his chest. And he realized it's this whole moment right now, this whole experience telling him you need to pull the sword out of your chest that Goro left in you. And so once he wakes up, he pulls it out and he's able to properly heal up. And now we jump over to Dekumo. Now, when it comes to Dekumo, he does inform us that the clan is not really here to create some kind of serum that's going to be used to be the cure for cancer, but only sell it to the rich people. Instead, what they're here for is to create a new kind of drug, a drug that we actually saw earlier, a drug known as Thunderbolt. Now, it is very well known that if you take the pill over a certain period of time, like, one pill per day for like 2 weeks straight, you're going to end up dead. But here's the thing. When it comes to Dekumo, he knows that the people are still going to try to buy it because you now have the ability for a brief moment to have powers. He knows that people out there are going to risk their lives to have that opportunity to just have powers for a day or two. And so for him, they have created a new drug that should hit the market hard and make them a lot of money. Now for Kumo, he does get word from Goro that, hey, you know what? Mission accomplished. We had killed off Wolverine, and now we are able to leave to head back to our main country, Japan. And so they begin to leave. But now you have Logan arrive at the warehouse they were using in Madripoor. Now, when it comes to Logan, when he does arrive at the warehouse, the clan had already left back towards Japan. But for Logan, when he does arrive at the warehouse, he finds all the dead monkeys. The monkeys that were used in that experiment. And for Logan, he is very upset about the idea that these monkeys were used for something like that, because he knows that when it comes to the monkeys in Madripoor, they are heavily tied to the folklore of the land. And matter of fact, you do have a villager appear, and he also expressed how angry he is in the fact that all these monkeys were killed off for some kind of experiment. And so for Logan, it's now time to make the clan pay for what they have done. But getting into the final chapter for today's video, we actually do pick up with Wolverine, Tiger, and also Archie. Now, when it comes to our characters, their main goal is to sneak Wolverine into Japan, and how they do it is having him pretend to be a dead body. So when he arrives and you have customs open up the coffin, they see a dead body. He looks the part. He looks like he is actually dead. Now, when it comes to customs, I'm kind of wondering what to do with this dead body. But then you have Dekumo appear, the leader of the clan. Now, once he sees Wolverine, he loves the idea of seeing the dead body of Logan, because now he truly does have confirmation that Logan is dead, that his clan was the people to be able to bring down this great warrior who was actually a rival for his clan. And so now he is going to do the most honorable thing and buried the body in his own personal plot. And so he tells guys, go ahead, grab the body, and let's head home. But before he leaves, he tells Tiger and Archie, you better leave Japan right now, or I'm going to tell these guys right here in customs to go ahead and arrest you. And so they leave. Now, after a few hours had passed by, we do pick up with Rico. Now remember, Rico was the lady we saw earlier who is currently being forced to work in the clan because her husband bought out her dad's debt. And her husband is Goro, the guy who stabbed Wolverine in the chest earlier with the sword. But she's very upset about the idea that Logan was not able to bring down the clan, not able to kill off Goro, so that she would finally be free, because she hates the man a lot. But she knows that she cannot kill him herself. But luckily for her, Wolverine wakes up after being drugged to look the part like he is actually dead. And so once he does wake up, he is able to just pop out of the ground. And now she knows that Logan came here to finish the job, to kill off the leader of the clan. But now we have to jump over to Kumo. Now, when it comes to Kumo, his main goal now is to show off what he was able to create. This new kind of drug, the Thunderbolt, to potential buyers. Now, when it comes to the buyers, they are very excited about the idea of seeing what this drug can actually do. And so for his example, he uses a wolf. Now, the wolf has to go up against 3 tigers. Now you'll believe, okay, these tigers should be able to take the wolf out very easily. It doesn't happen, because with the wolf going into this berserker mode, it was able to take out all 3 tigers just like that. And for the buyers, this is great. He has buyers who want to buy the drugs, but unfortunately, he has a visitor. And that would be Wolverine. Now, when it comes to Logan, this man is a one-man army. This man came here to accomplish something. This man came here to shut down the entire clan. And so he begins to fight against them. Now, when it comes to Logan, he is able to take all of them on so easily. Now, when it comes to Goro, let's not forget, Goro believed that he had killed off Logan earlier. In matter of fact, when he saw the dead body with Tiger and Archie, he was proud of the fact that he had killed off Logan. But now he knows that Logan never did die, that Logan has survived, and now he's back to take them down. Now you have Goro try one more time to take down Logan, but unfortunately this time Logan is properly healed up. He is able to go toe to toe with Goro and take him down, and then moves on for Kumo. Now when it comes to Kumo, by the time you have Logan arrive there to take him out, somebody had already killed him, and that would be, well, Rico, because there is an umbrella that's stabbed to his chest, and that umbrella belongs to her. But for Logan, he does not care, because he was able to say that the clan is no longer around. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please, what's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so I want to continue our coverage over the X-Men. And so now we got to pick up with Damaging Evidence. This was a 3-part miniseries where you technically had Wolverine and the Punisher teaming up, but at the same time you had Wolverine killing off a Punisher. Not the Punisher, but a Punisher. And you'll see what I mean as we go through today's video. And so getting into the opening pages of this book, we actually pick up with a character known as Mr. Phillips. Now, Phillips is not really important. He's an assassin who's working for the Kingpin, who was sent over to one of the Kingpin's operations to kill off a guy who was stealing from the Kingpin. And so we do see Phillips in the opening page shooting that guy a few times in the chest to go ahead and kill him off for the Kingpin. Now, after doing that, he's then confronted by the Punisher. Now, the reason why the Punisher is there right now is because, well, the Punisher is trying to hurt the Kingpin in many different kinds of ways. And so right now, why not go ahead and take out his best assassin? But on top of that, why not take out a drug center that's being controlled by the Kingpin? And so you have the Punisher being able to kill off Phillips very easily. But here comes the problem, though. You see, when it came to Philip earlier, shooting that guy who had stole from the Kingpin, well, other people who were working in that drug center, they heard the gunshots and they came outside to investigate, to figure out what exactly is going on. And of course, when they get outside, they see the Punisher shoot down Philip. Now, one of the guys who does come outside is a guy known as Sean Moore. Now, he's not really important, and the reason why, because he dies right here in the opening pages of the book. And the only reason why I am bringing his name up is because the Punisher realized that most of the people who are working in this drug center have no idea how to use a weapon. And most likely, they're going to end up shooting each other rather than shooting at the Punisher. And so when it came to Sean Moore, well, Sean Moore got shot and dies right there in front of his family. And once the Punisher sees that Sean was shot and killed, he realized that he lost control of this whole entire operation. His main goal was to just take out the assassin and find a way to bring down his drug center. But that would kill off people who could have a wife and son at home waiting for them. And really, this right here is going to bother him for the rest of the book. But you didn't have the Punisher realize he has to go, and so he leaves. Now, word does get back over to the Kingpin, and really, the Kingpin is not happy about the idea of hearing that the Punisher was able to take down another one of his drug operations. You see, for the Punisher, he is the one hero who is costing the Kingpin the most money, and we are talking about the idea of in the millions. And so for the Kingpin, the Punisher gotta go. And so we do learn that the Kingpin is working on a new project, better known as Project Damage. Now, here's the thing. The project is almost done, but the problem is they can't finish the project because, well, the Kingpin does not have the right technology to finish the project. Now, the Kingpin got word that the Punisher had another run-in with a different company, or a different group, better known as the Reavers. Now, the Reavers are usually in X-Men comics, but the Kingpin realized if they have the right tech that could allow him to finish his damaged project, he is going to make a deal with them. But now we have to jump over to Wolverine. Now, when we do, we see Logan going up against a small group of the Reavers. Now, we had talked about them before in our coverage over the X-Men. You see, when it comes to the Reavers, they are a group of characters who are, well, basically cyborgs. And they're being led by another character known as Donald Pierce. Now, Donald Pierce is also a cyborg, but that man got a huge hatred towards the mutant race. And so usually when it comes to the Reavers, their main goal is to kill off the mutants, to kill off the X-Men. Hence the idea of why right now they're going after Wolverine. Now, once you have Logan being able to get away, he overhears one of their conversations. They're being called back to their base. And the reason why? Because they got a new contract to go after somebody else who has also cost them a lot of problems. And that would be the Punisher. And so for Logan, he's all like, you know what? I need to go out of my way to warn the Punisher that sooner or later he might have some company that might try to kill him. And so now we jump over to the Kingpin talking to Donald Pierce about their deal. Now, for the Kingpin, he says, listen, if I'm able to deliver the head of the Punisher to you, then you must hand over your technology to allow me to finish my project. Now, for Donald Pierce, he says, listen, I'll go ahead and give you the technology right now. But here's the catch though. If you're not able to kill the Punisher, you're going to owe me like $5 million. Really, it's 5 at first, but then by the end of their conversation, it goes to 10 because the Kingpin does get upset about how much Donald Pierce is asking for. But either way, you do have the two guys agree. And so now the Kingpin must hurry up and kill off the Punisher, or he's gonna owe Donald Pierce $10 million. But now we get the chance to actually learn what is this Project Damage all about. And we kind of find out it's about the idea of turning somebody into a cyborg. Now the person being turned into a cyborg is a guy named Jamie Ortez. Now, Jamie first appeared back in Punisher War Journal number 8. Now, in that book, we actually saw Jamie try to steal the battle van that belonged to the Punisher. The problem is, the battle van has defenses to protect itself from any kind of intruders. And so when it came to Jamie, he got severely injured. Now, the Punisher came back, and he didn't kill off Jamie. And the reason why? Because he said, I want you to suffer for what you have done. And so he took Jamie over to a nearby hospital. Now, after that, a guy called the Arranger who worked for the Kingpin was able to go get Jamie and begin the process of turning him into a cyborg. Now, for Jamie, he wants revenge against the Punisher. He blames the Punisher for what exactly happened to him, even though it's really his own fault. Either way, when it comes to Jamie, once he gets word that he is almost ready to go, they said, listen, we're not done just quite yet. We got to change one more thing. We got to change your face. And the reason why comes out down the road in this story. Now for Logan, he does arrive into New York, except when he does, he hears about a recent shootout that the Punisher was involved in. But the problem with this shootout is that an innocent bystander was shot and killed by the Punisher. Now for Logan, originally he came to New York to help out the Punisher when it came to the Reavers. But now he's wondering in the possibility if he has to, well, cut down the Punisher, because maybe he has just completely lost it. Now for the Punisher, he does think back to that recent shootout, and he says, wait a second, I didn't shoot any bystander at all. What in the world are they talking about? And so for Frank, he realized that there's somebody out there pretending to be him for unknown reasons. And so now it's him saying, I need to go back to that crime scene to see if I'm able to find any clues can tell me what exactly is going on. And so as we dive into the second chapter, we actually do pick up with a character known as Sniper. Now, Sniper is one of those I call quick bad guys. You see, for the Punisher, usually if somebody's coming after him or if he's going after somebody else, most of the time that person is going to die. And so for the Sniper guy here, he is one of the Punisher bad guys, but he does not last that long in Marvel Comics. But recently he was called in to watch over the Punisher by the Kingpin. Now, the Punisher does arrive at the crime scene that he was supposedly involved in. Now, he was there, but he remembers that he didn't shoot any bystanders, but when he does arrive, he does find more bullets that he does technically use. And so for the Punisher, he begins to wonder just maybe a bullet or two did hit a bystander and he didn't realize it. Now, right after you had the Punisher leave the crime scene, you then had Logan arrive. Now, when Logan arrives, he was following the scent of the Punisher to this location. But the problem is, when he does arrive at the crime scene, all the different scents of different people there are kind of throwing things off for him. And so now Logan is unable to follow the Punisher. He now has to wait for another crime scene to hopefully pick up a new scent of the Punisher to follow. Now, you do have Sniper meet up with the Kingpin. Now, this is where you have Sniper get somewhat upset with the Kingpin. And the reason why? Because the Kingpin tells Sniper, you are not allowed to kill the Punisher at all. The only thing you are allowed to do is to watch over Damage, to make sure that he followed my orders. If he doesn't, then you'll take him out. But the Punisher, you will leave alone. Now, for Sniper, he wants payback against the Punisher Punisher as well. And so he hates the idea of being told that he is not allowed to take a shot at the Punisher. But at the same time, he knows that it's better to not double cross the Kingpin. And so he said, fine, I'll follow your orders and I'll just watch over damage. But getting back over to the Punisher, we see him going over to a drug house to basically kill off the people who are cooking up drugs in that building. Now, before the Punisher had hit the drug house, he made sure that all the neighbors to this house would not be at home around this time, just in case one of his bullets might hit them on accident. And so you have the Punisher go in there, gun blazing, killing off all the drug dealers in that drug house. Now, for the Punisher, he believes that he did a great job, and also no bystanders got shot either, and so he goes home. Except when he does get home, you have the news saying the Punisher had once again shot some innocent bystanders who were on their way home. Now, like I said earlier, the Punisher made sure that none of the neighbors to the drug house would be home around that time, just in case one of his bullets hit them. But apparently, there were some bystanders on their way home, and they were shot and killed by the Punisher. And apparently there was a camera crew there as well for one of the news channels, and they were able to get a video of the Punisher just smiling as he goes around killing people in the drug house, but also killing off some of the bystanders as well. And so for the Punisher, he says, I don't remember that at all. I have no idea what they are talking about. But now this is the Punisher saying, did I black out when I went into that drug house in my killing spree against bad people? Like, no, there's no way, because I don't kill off innocent people. I only kill off bad people. But right now he's believing that because he loves the idea of killing off bad people, he may have blacked out and on accident shot some bystanders because they were just nearby. Now, you do have Logan arrive at the latest crime scene to figure out if the Punisher is actually going crazy right now. Now, when Wolverine arrives at that crime scene, well, Sniper is still there. And so you have Sniper realize that there's a short guy walking around the crime scene. Now, you do have the Kingpin and one of his assistants realize it's Logan, it's Wolverine. And so now they fear the idea of the X-Men getting involved. And so they tell Sniper, your goal right now is to get rid of Wolverine. Just knock him out and make sure he's out of the picture long enough for our plans against the Punisher actually works. And so you have Sniper shoot Logan with a tranquilizer to knock him out. And then when Logan wakes up, he's in a van, but he has an IV currently tied to him. That's just pumping in more and more of the tranquilizer to keep him knocked out long enough for the Kingpin to pull off his plan against the Punisher. Now, you do have the Punisher attack another drug house that is currently being used by the Kingpin. Now, the Punisher game plan is once again to make sure that no innocent bystander gets shot because of him. And so when he does go inside the drug house, he does begin to take out the different people who were involved with this house. But here's the problem. One of the dealers began to shoot back at the Punisher, and those bullets are going out into the streets. And of course, they do hit an innocent bystander. And so once you have the Punisher being able to take out all the bad people inside, when he gets outside, he sees that innocent bystander right now laying dead on the ground with his wife or girlfriend crying over him. He's kind of like, man, it happened again. Now you have the Punisher leave, except right after he does leave, another van pulls up. Now inside that van is another Punisher. Now here's the thing. This is actually Damage, the guy we talked about earlier, now looking like the Punisher. He is a cyborg who was transformed to look just like the Punisher as a way to frame Frank Castle. And so when he arrives at the scene after Frank leaves, well, you didn't have Damage go ahead and start killing off the innocent bystanders who stuck around after the Punisher recent shootout. Now, word does get over to Wolverine on the radio in the van that he's currently stuck in. And so once he's able to get out of the van and head over to that location, he does confront what he believes is Punisher. But then he realized this is not Punisher. This is a guy he never met before, and of course is Damage. Now you do have the two guys begin to fight against each other, and that really does lead us into the final chapter of this video. And so as we dive into the final chapter for this book, we actually pick up where we left off at the end of the last chapter, where you have Wolverine just fighting against Damage. Now for Damage, his main goal is to get rid of Wolverine so that he is able to continue to go after the Punisher. That's his main target right now. But here's the thing, Logan has a healing factor, and so no matter what Damage does to Wolverine, he is able to get right back up once again. Now for Damage, he's a cyborg, and so sooner or later when it comes to Logan, he will be able to get rid of Damage, and then most likely there will be nothing left. And so at the end of their first round of fighting, you have the two characters just laid there where we're left to believe they're both dead. Now we already know that Logan is not dead, but we're left to believe that both characters are dead. Now for Sniper, he truly believes that with Damage now out of the way, that means he has the right to now go after the Punisher. Now, even though the Kingpin said you are not allowed to kill the Punisher, for Sniper is all like, hey, you told me to watch over Damage. He's gone thanks to Wolverine, which means now I have the right to do what I want to do, which is to kill off the Punisher. Now, Sniper knew where the Punisher would be at. He's currently at a funeral for some of the victims who were killed off by Damage. But let's not forget, the Punisher still believes that he was the one who killed off those innocent people. And so while at the funeral, you have Sniper arrive. Now, the Punisher realized the way Sniper is shooting, who's after him right now. He knew instantly it was Sniper. Now, it does get to this weird point where you have Sniper hold a gun to a woman's head and tell the Punisher, you get two choices here, who I'm going to kill, the woman or the kid. Now, the Punisher is able to move so easily close to Sniper to take him down, which honestly for me made no sense for the story, because I feel like if someone has a hostage at gunpoint and you walk closer to them, they're going to shoot that hostage. But apparently Sniper did not do that. And so you have the Punisher being able to actually kill off Sniper. Now, before Sniper dies, you have the Punisher ask him, who's behind all of this? Who really did kill off those innocent people? But for Sniper, he knows if he does not tell Punisher anything, it's going to mess with his mind, to play mind games with the Punisher. So you have Sniper say, you know what? I'm going to die with that secret, to leave you wondering who actually did kill off those innocent people. Was it me? Was it you? Or was it somebody else? Now, you do have the Punisher being able to find Wolverine, who's still stuck to Damage and laying in some kind of chemicals. Now, you do have the Punisher being able to pull both guys out of the chemicals. And of course, we find out that Wolverine is okay, which honestly, there's no surprise there. Now, once you have Wolverine get back up, we kind of find out the Punisher has no idea who Damage is, which honestly makes a lot of sense because the last time he saw Julio still looked like Julio, but thanks to the Kingpin, well, he was turned to a cyborg to look just like Punisher. And so for Frank, he has no idea who Damage is. Now, Damage does wake back up, and when he does see Frank, he's all like, hey, it's you, I gotta kill you. But with the combination of Wolverine and also the Punisher, they were able to get rid of Damage very easily, and he blows up with a grenade. So there he goes, he's also dead as well. Now, the last page of the book, we actually do pick up with Donald Pierce. Now, this is Donald having a box delivered to him. Now, inside the box is a head. Now, at first, it's Donald saying, oh, you know what? The Kingpin was able to kill off the Punisher. This is great. But this is not the Punisher. This is the head of Damage. And so inside the box, there's a check and also a note. And the Kingpin says, I'm hiring you to now do me a favor, to rebuild this cyborg for me that I had lost thanks to Punisher. Now for Donald, he's kind of like, okay, Kingpin, honestly, you did not give me a lot to work with, but I can at least try. And so we're left to believe in the possibility that Damage might come back down the road in Marvel Comics. But the problem is, this was his last appearance unless another writer down the road says, you know what, let me try to do something new with the character of Damage. Besides that, he is officially dead in the world of Marvel Comics. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.